Therese, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment that we're spending an awful lot of money on generators, that we were paying $1,500 a month for renting one when we had one sitting there. It seems like we're spending a lot of money on equipment on a state-of-the-art sewer plant. And then we're borrowing money from the enterprise fund, which is against the state law, and putting it in the general fund, I guess, to take care of all these expenses. I'd like that to be looked into a little bit better. I mean, why do we need so many pumps? I mean, let's get down to the Brits. Maybe we need a new sewer plant, period. Instead of waiting 20 years, let's build one now.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Does anybody from council have any comments regarding the consent agenda? No? Okay, with that, I think we'll go ahead and take a vote. A motion? Sorry, I need the motion first. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar.
Great, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote. And that passes 4-0. Great, thank you. So now we have a couple of special presentations. And our first is a proclamation on behalf of the Volunteer Recognition Month. And here to accept this proclamation is Jim Lang, a supervisor for senior services, and Donna Northrup. And Janice is here as well. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead.
My name is Donna Northrup, and I'm a member of the Senior Center.
Great.
And I'm here to address you this evening about the things that we enjoy about the Senior Center, and there's nobody there with more time than me. I spent the entire month of September renewing memberships. Then I'm proud to say in the last 2 years, we've increased our membership by 50%.
Great.
The seniors have everything in the world down there that they can do. And I've had the newsletter laid up on top of your desks. I know you get these newsletters in the mail, but a lot of times, like most cases, they probably hit file 13 without really being looked at, that's no problem. But if you take the time to look at it, this particular newsletter tells you what we do, how we do it, when we do it, where it's at, what it costs. And it also has your menus in there for the entire 2 months, because we get the bulletin every 2 months. It has all the activities on a daily basis. As an example, on St. Patrick's Day, and I didn't see anybody from the council there that day, but we had a total of 90 people in our dining room. Now, our dining room that day was decorated by Janice Haynes, who is our activity director.
Right.
We had green tablecloths, we had green hats, we had green necklaces, we had green pins, and everybody enjoyed corned beef and cabbage. And I thought to myself as I sat there bringing them in, what about the people who sit at home who don't realize that the Senior Center is there and what it can do for them?
Right.
And I'm asking each one of you as you go through your days and the people that you talk to encourage people to come to the community center, because we have the finest, bar none, senior center in Northern California. And another thing I'd like to ask is that maybe during your busy schedules, and I know you all have jobs, but in your busy schedule, if you set a little time aside to come down maybe one day for lunch, and if you come on Tuesday and Friday, I'll buy it for you. Come on down, introduce yourself around to people. As I look around the room tonight when I come in here, I don't see a lot of seniors. I mean seniors, such as myself, because it's hard for them to get out. They have no way of getting here. But I'd like you to try and endorse the Senior Center as much as you can, because remember, guys, one day you're going to be one.
That's right.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donna, for your words and all of your help. Wait.
Donna?
Wait, Donna?
You can't get off that easy, Donna.
You have to hear me now.
So,
Anyway.
so I want to just thank you right now before I read the proclamation, but I also want you to know how much we appreciate all the work that you do, as well as letting us know, that you would like us to come down there and see you more often and do whatever we can. So I appreciate that. And I'm going to go ahead, just right now, I'm going to read a proclamation, and then I'm going to take your comments, and I'm sure the council would also like to say.
Okay, because I just have one more note, okay? And that is, remember that when you give of your time, it's the greatest gift you can give a senior, okay?
Yes,
Thank you.
I completely agree, and stay there for a second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation. Whereas the City of Pacifica recognizes volunteers as one person can make a difference, and whereas the citizens of the City of Pacifica benefit from individuals that share their time and talents and efforts to help others and sustain this community to be admired by others, and whereas their services help enhance and maintain the quality of life for older adults and those with disability and promote socialization, and the Pacifica Seniors Services would like to recognize the volunteers that help the city to offer programs for our aging and disabled, and their willingness to invest their time, talents, and compassion to help raise funds to support programs and services to our citizens in a shared effort to maintain affordable program costs. And their life experience are shared with others at the Senior Center, local schools, and many other community facilities. The Pacifica Senior Services and the Pacifica City Council agrees to recognize these individuals for their many contributions and accomplishments. Now therefore let it be proclaimed that April 13th to 17th, 2015 shall be National Volunteer Recognition Week in the City of Pacifica. It is through these exceptional people with extraordinary hearts that make a difference in helping sustain the great community in Pacifica. So again, thank you so very much for all that you do and your wisdom and insight. It goes so far, and the Senior Services couldn't be there without your work. And
Just remember to pass it around to everybody you talk to.
yes, I agree.
Okay.
And I know that there might be other council members that would like to say a few words, and then I'd love to hear from Jim or Janice if they have something they'd like to say. So, Mayor Pro Tem DeGree?
Yes, when you go into the senior center, thank you to the volunteers and to you, the staff. It's a very homey feeling, and in dealing with people who are on the verge of homelessness or homeless, and maybe they don't know about the senior place where they can go and have a nice, comfortable meal and enjoy company. So appreciate all the very hard and creative work that is done there by all of you. Thanks.
Right, great. Councilmember O'Neill?
No, I've been a volunteer. Even in college, I worked with the handicapped for over 10 years and stuff, and I know I staff and volunteer, but volunteers are like the thread that holds the fabric of Pacifica together, the quilt, whether it's the theater, the children. Read Aloud Days is coming up in March. April 7th up at Sunset Ridge, and it's, there's a lot of different ways volunteers work in town. And I know my mom, when she was alive up in San Francisco, she got Meals on Wheels, and one of the biggest treats in her day was when he brought his 2-year-old up there, and she was able to sit there and play with the 2-year-old and stuff like that. So it really is important. It brightens the day of everybody to have a volunteer there. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Councilmember Keener?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I just want to say thank you for all you do.
And lastly, I'll just once again say that I'm so filled with so much gratitude for the work that you do at the Senior Services Center. I know that it has over 150 something volunteers that maybe Jim you'll comment on, and it really truly takes a village, and there's so many incredible classes and events that are going on down there, and it's a beautiful place, and completely filled with appreciation for all that you do down there, and it's just essential for so many people. So thank you very, very much. It truly is cherished. And
Yes, thank you.
Jim.
Thank you for adding that. Again, we do have a little over 130 volunteers that are going to be recognized at our volunteer recognition dinner on April 15th. again, that's a chance when we invite the council, our PVNR commissioners, our city manager to help serve the volunteers to show gratitude on part of the city. But again, the other part is, we are blessed. I go into these provider meetings in the county. When we talk about volunteers, I say we have 130. They don't believe me. It's like it's an exaggeration. And then when they see our newsletter and the programs we offer, again, we wouldn't be able to do any of that without the volunteers. So they are the strength behind our program. And again, financially, this year they're going to bring in around $70,000 between the rummage sales, the gift shop, and the classes this year. I mean, that was way over what we've ever had in our budget. And again, it allows us to expand our services without putting any burden to the city. And it helps soften the burden that we had already adopted. So it's really neat, their support. And again, besides the senior that we all know that they touch, the Meals on Wheels, and that's always a great story. It's just really in our heart, that program. But just remember that face, it's that daily visit, but it's also that family member or caregiver that's out of the area that knows that their mother's being taken care of, their father's being taken care of. So that's really another added bonus. And it really shows the caring community that we live in. And like Mike alluded to, volunteers run everything. You look at our Beach Coalition, you look at the schools, the reading programs, the senior programs, the younger ones that do the lights for recreation. I mean, our community is a very giving community, so it speaks very well for the community. And our senior volunteers are just, on top of it. And then we have Janice who's trying to hide, but she helps schedule all these programs, and she can help elude this extra volunteer efforts from them. And if you come to the center when Donna's working, if she's selling something, you will buy it, even if you don't want it. I mean, we have spaghetti feed tickets, and if you hate spaghetti, before you leave that door, you'll be buying a ticket. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Great. And again, just want to say thank you to the volunteers and also to the staff, to Karen, to you, Jim, to Janice, and to Cindy, and to everybody else that's a part of it. It's truly amazing. And I had a great time when I was there last Thursday. I can mention it in a little while, I'll talk a little bit more about it. But just the fact that I was at the rummage sale, and they had a room filled with, fill a bag for $3, and just incredible items at the rummage sale, too. It was just so much fun to go around and look at things, and just amazing the number of events and things that you have going on all at one time. So thank you again for everything you do for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I am also honored. I have one additional proclamation to read, and that is on the National Service Recognition Day. Do we have Gail Shoemaker? Yes, great, thank you. So Gail Shoemaker is of the Corporation for National and Community Service, and she's also from Pacifica. And again, this is a true honor to provide this proclamation, and so I'll go ahead and read it, and then love to hear some comments about the organization that you're representing tonight. This is National Service Recognition Day. Service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges. And the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs. AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants address the most pressing challenges facing our cities and counties, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families to providing health services and helping communities recover from national disasters. National service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those we serve. For those who serve. AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants serve in more than 60,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve with both their direct service and by recruiting and managing millions of additional volunteers. National Service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. National Service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in the future in all future endeavors. The Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, City of Service, and mayors across the country to recognize the impact of service on the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April 7th, 2015. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Karen Irvin, Mayor of the City of Pacifica, do hereby proclaim April 7th, 2015 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service for their city, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. Thank you so much for all that you do, and as part of this organization, Gail, it's really a tremendous organization. I actually was invited to visit a project that AmeriCorps was working on at the Pacifica Garden Center, and they had a group of young adults aged 18 to 24 that come and they do a project for nonprofits or any entity that may need help, and they go around to different areas throughout the year, and it's really a phenomenal project. So here we are at the Pacifica Garden Center, where the Pacifica Gardens gives things to gives food support to the resource center and the schools, and in turn we have the AmeriCorps giving back to the Garden Center. So it's just a wonderful situation that was occurring there, and it has so much potential for both the communities that it serves as well as the students that are giving a year of national service. So I really want to thank you for that. And I don't know if anybody wants to say anything now or possibly wait till Gail speaks and then have any comments. Okay.
Shall I go ahead?
Sure.
I'll move the mic up a little bit. So I'm Gail Benton Shoemaker, and I'm a program officer with the federal agency, the Corporation for National and Community Service. And we give grants in AmeriCorps, Senior Corps, and the Social Innovation Fund. All across the country, there are lots of grants being given in AmeriCorps, and I want to talk about that because AmeriCorps has been of service to Pacifica. There are 3 branches of AmeriCorps, and one is NCCC, the National Civilian Community Corps, and these are the young people that Karen met last Friday at Pacifica Gardens. But they've also come to the Sanchez Arts Center and painted and landscaped. They've been to Pacifica Gardens, I think, more than once. And these nonprofit organizations write a grant application for them to come. They can also come and help cities with parks. There's lots of things these teams of young people can do. There's also AmeriCorps State and National, AmeriCorps Vista that works on poverty. I can talk a lot about all our different programs, and I won't. But we're very grateful that Pacifica is recognizing that these young people are giving a year of their lives to national service full-time, and what they can contribute to a city like Pacifica. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I just wanted you to ask a couple questions. So if there's another nonprofit in Pacifica, or even potentially the city of Pacifica, or the schools or anything that had a project, how would they go about getting a project going?
There are, for NCCC, there are possibilities of applications 4 times a year, and they could contact me, and Roy Ernest also works with this federal agency and lives in Pacifica, and we'd be happy to connect people.
Great.
But I know Kathleen Salvia is an old hand at this, and now, her name, the head of the Pacifica Gardens is
Loretta.
also Loretta
O'Brien, right.
Loretta knows quite a bit about it too, so
Great.
we'd all be happy to help.
Great. That's really nice. Well, thank you so much. And actually, I think it would be nice to, if Donna's still here as well, to get a picture. I would, appreciate just if you could stand right here and we can get a picture,
Sure.
and maybe we can also
That'd be
get a
great.
picture.
Thank
If
you.
that's okay. And you have a question. Go ahead.
So I'm assuming that Pacifica residents are a part of AmeriCorps, as well as the team involves other people?
There are Pacifica residents that are part of Senior Corps. There's an RSVP, Retired Senior Volunteer Program, out of San Mateo County, and some Pacificans are members of that and serve through RSVP. in Senior Corps, there's also senior companions and foster grandparents, and I don't think there's a grant in Pacifica, but there may be in the nearby area.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very
good.
much. And if we could come, if you want to come up and get the.
Where's Donna? Is Donna out there?
Is Donna still here? Yeah, and maybe I can have Donna and Janice and Jim come up, and we can get a picture with them as well.
I was down there.
Okay, yeah, well, let's go down there. So we'll do this one first. Right there, we'll take one and then, first we're going to do this one. First we're going to do this one, just with Gail and then.
Not yet.
Thank you, everybody, for allowing us that opportunity. Next, we have council communications. The purpose of council communications is for council members to inform each other of items of potential interest to the public and other council members. And so with that, would anyone like to start? Thank you. Councilmember Keener.
Yeah. So first of all, I attended a meeting of the City and County Association of Governments Board. And the reason I did was because I was up for a committee of that board, the Congestion Management and Environmental Quality Committee. And this is a committee that Mike O'Neill is vice chair of. But apparently they don't hold that against me. I mean, in the sense that that didn't sound quite right. They don't mind having two people from Pacifica on the same board. So I was elected to the committee, and we were supposed to have a meeting today, but it was canceled. So we'll have our first meeting in April. The other meeting I attended was the emergency preparedness meeting. And about all I have to report on that is is something I did again, and something I and my neighbors are doing. It's map your neighborhood. So I spoke about this about a month ago, and I've made a little progress. We have mapped our neighborhood a little bit to the tune of about 10 or 12 people, with a goal of about 20 overall. And the idea is to be prepared for any sorts of disasters that may come, earthquakes, large fires, or whatever you can imagine. And we take an inventory of what kind of equipment people have and what kind of skills they have. And it turns out that we have an ICU nurse in the neighborhood, and we have 2 San Francisco firefighters, so we're pretty well equipped. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
Yes, we had our economic development meeting, which is on the second Tuesdays, and the third Wednesday is open space in Parkland. Both committees are moving along really substantially. A lot of talk was for the Palmetto streetscape, and we made our subcommittee groups in the Economic Development Committee. We encourage people to please attend. It does happen at the police station. Parking can be a challenge, but there is parking. And the open space in Parkland, we've also moved along with that. We got the work plan together and a lot of things on trails. Very interesting information. Encourage people to attend both of those meetings. I attended during the daytime legislative group, representatives from each city regarding housing, and we received a consultant's report about homelessness in the entire county, and one of the objectives of this report was to try to see patterns and gaps in services. So it was very interesting, and more will be coming on that, so that those of us in legislative areas can look at where problem areas are and brainstorm how to respond and react to those kind of things, so ward off homelessness. As you know, it's pretty rampant. It seems to be more rampant than ever, but so the statistics help with that. Also, today we had the Giants in town. I want to thank the Giants again for being very generous. Thanks to Horace and the city also for encouraging them to come here. We also encourage them to be available for people with special needs and veterans, and to the coastsiders, because they usually only come to cities where there is a little league that has a name that's under the Giants auspices. So we are very fortunate, and I must say that everyone was very pleased with how the event went between 4 and 6 today. And some of the Giants' comments were that our community is one of the most diversified that they've experienced, that there was a really very nice combination or mixture of, we had everybody. Everybody was all types, all of us were there, representative of all of us. It was a very nice experience. So things. So the next one, HEART, H-E-A-R-T, which is a housing event, is coming up on the 25th. So we'll have more about the housing. As you can imagine, with the rents soaring, and a lot of people are facing crises. So this is a big event. All right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Councilmember O'Neill.
I actually had it pretty quiet. I went to the Giants thing today, and that was fun. Got my picture taken with my daughter. You know, it was actually kind of cool because since she's 19, she usually doesn't want anything to do with dad, right? But then I attended a LAFCO meeting, and it's going to be interesting. Is LAFCO is the local agency formation commission, and they look at all the different districts, special districts, cities, and stuff like that on the peninsula to see if there could be some combinations that would make some economic sense to save some money. And they're going to be coming out with a whole MSRP, service report program, and I forget what the M is for, municipal service report program, North County, in regards to fire agencies, water districts, et cetera, and that's supposed to be due out in a couple months. And then we just voted to have the Harbor District also be a part of that. So that's going to be kind of come down, the freight trains coming down the road that are going to be pretty interesting. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you for that report. And let's see, I'll start with last Saturday as a member of BPAC, as Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I toured the county of about 12 different sites on the county that are applying for grant funding for a variety of different projects. And actually, one thing that was really interesting is the project that we have here in Pacifica was very well represented by our staff, and I want to thank them for that. But that project has to do with enhancements to our trail from Rockaway down to, you almost get to Lindemar, to enhance protection of, along the cliffs, and a lot of cracking going on because they're almost 20 years old. And it was very well received by the people, and I really appreciate the time and effort that staff took in explaining our needs and the fact that this is such an important road because of the connectivity, that if you're in Rockaway, it's very difficult to walk or bike or take your child on a stroller to the Lindemar area. So I think it's really important. And another thing I really felt looking at all these different sites is the importance. Sometimes I think you get tunnel vision when a lot of people are riding their cars through Pacifica, and you get a very different perspective of what Pacifica is like when you're out doing recreation, walking, biking, whatever the case may be, and you really can appreciate the beauty that we have here. And so I think that's really important. It's a very competitive process. The CCAG has $1.3 million to donate to, not to donate, to give to these applicants, and there's $3.2 million in requests. So obviously there's more of a need than there is a way to finance it. So it's very, very competitive, and we'll just have to see where the priorities are of the group. But moving forward, I think it's important that we keep as up to date as we can on the grant funds, and we're able to move forward as much as we can. I also wanted to remark that I know Jim was just up here and he was talking about the senior services, and I am really grateful that they invited me to participate in, they have a Meals on Wheels program, and one day they get the mayors of the city and council members to come out and help. And so I accompanied Esther Lafayette, who we went door to door to provide meals for the elderly. And they're, it's a very, very gratifying experience. Everybody wanted to talk and tell me their stories, and I had a wonderful afternoon, and I would love to be able to do that more often if my schedule permitted. But it's so necessary, and again points to the importance of the senior services. So again, I want to thank them for all the work they do there. Everybody there and the volunteers are just a magnificent group of people. So again, kudos to those people. I went to the Economic Development Committee meeting. We talked about vacancy rates, and we also got the streetscape project done, so Sue has already commented on that. And then I'm also on the legislative committee for CCAG, and what we do is we explore different policies and legislation and give our input and what they should focus on. And as a county, as a group of cities, we have some common interests that we want them to pursue. And on April 7th, they're going to be going to Sacramento to talk to some of the assemblymen and senators about some issues that are important to all the cities. And one being, and I think the primary one being right now, are transportation issues and road conditions, highway conditions. So those are all really important issues. So we're focusing on that for the April 7th meeting. Had a great time, and I really want to say thank you to Horace Henshaw, and as well as Russ Stanley, who's the VP of Marketing for the Giants. They came to Pacifica. We had a great time, and I think the people that came had a wonderful time as well. And thank you very much to the Park Beach Recreation Departments, Public Works, the police, and all Pacifica City staff that were integral to having them come to our city. It was a great event, and very appreciative of that. And also, I'm going to be giving a State of the City to the Rotary on April 7th at, I think, 6:30 at the Sharp Park restaurant, and I'm looking forward to participating in that event as well. So with that, I think we're finished with council communications, and I think that brings us to oral communications. So let me see, do I have my spiel. I didn't print out my little spiel that I normally, oh wait, yes I did. This portion of the agenda is available for the public to address the city council on any issue that is not on the agenda. Any person wishing to address the council shall be recognized by the mayor during oral communications, provided, however, that during the oral communications portion of the agenda, only items not on the agenda for that meeting may be addressed. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. Council members shall not enter into debate with speakers under oral communications. A maximum time of 3 minutes will be allowed for any speaker pursuant to Pacifica Municipal Code Title II, Chapter 1, Section 2-1.118. Any person making impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks or who become boisterous while addressing the council shall be called to order by the presiding officer, and if such conduct continues, may, at the direction of the presiding officer, be ordered barred from further audience before the council during the meeting. Okay, and with that, I'm going to invite people up to speak. I have quite a few cards tonight, so I'm going to call 3 of you, and then I'll call the next 3. So the first speaker for oral communications is Rodler Mettler, followed by William Lottenberger, and then Micah Della, and I didn't get your last name, Micah.
I think you said me, right?
Pardon me?
You say me?
Yes, I did. You're first, Roger.
All right, I wanted to let you know that I have the transcript of the restraining order for Bill Meyerhoff's Seaview Tire and Brake, and I want the public to know, so if you think I'm addressing you, I don't necessarily have to address you. I want to address the public. So, Karen, you got the attorney asked for the testimony. You said, did he say anything else to you, meaning me? Yes, he said we didn't address this. If we didn't address this issue soon, that either he would shoot me or I would shoot him, and that statement concerned me. Well, when you say, do you know what person, do you know, have a sense of the person that was referring to in the terms of the shooting? This is from the attorney of Meyerhoff. Yes, we were talking about Bill Meyerhoff. And since the person is in that, when you say since, you guessed, you assumed, you had an assumption that we were talking about Bill Meyerhoff. Well, we were not talking about Bill Meyerhoff, and I want the public to know that. And I assumed that if you want to assume things, I assumed you lied. And you perjured yourself in court. I did not say that. I only asked you for help, and you turned against me. And now you have a restraining order against Bill Meyerhoff and his family in the Seaview Tire and Brake, and I sent you a package. You never even apologized to me because I explained everything, and nobody even contacted me. I thought that was very rude of you, seeing you're supposedly the mayor. I can't go to the post office, I can't go to Walgreens, I can't get within 1,000 yards of Bill Meyerhoff or his family. You turned me into Wagstaff as a terrorist. So, seeing the city manager and the chief Tussa was investigating over 2.5 months, possibly 3, on got a code violation, I don't think they were investigating anything. You need Marianne Neihart, city manager, chief Tussa, you got Courtney Conlon, Captain Stidel involved in, really, did you need this restraining order? Yes, you did. And so the business of CV Tire and Brake can operate without a certificate of occupancy and a proper permit. And seeing this as a President Chamber of Commerce, everyone needs a certificate of occupancy. I went to the code enforcement today, and he said Seaview Tire and Brake does not need one. That is not true. I have the code right here. So you perjured yourself, Karen, to save Bill Meyerhoff. So what about you and Courtney? I mean, if I'm such a threatening person,
Please, Roger,
why did you
refrain
do
from
that?
using names of others. You can use my name, but please.
Oh, okay. Well, that's going to be a little hard to do. So you're telling me 32 letters, 3 public records, and Pete Jarnett saying that the business has no permits. Code enforcement can't show proof, don't need one. Meeting with the city manager, Chief Toss in the planning department, refusing to discuss the issue and give me an answer. In court, Bill Meyerhoff says, I'm in compliance. Oh, really?
Thank you, Roger. Okay, the next speaker is William Lottenberger.
Yes.
Thank you.
I read in the Tribune that the Highway 1 widening has come a little bit unstuck now. And I also read the letters there, and the proponents of the Highway 1 widening mostly say, don't just stand there, do something. And the opponents mostly say, ick. Naturally, I assumed that Caltrans knew what they were doing when this started, but this dragged on and on and on, so I finally took a look at it. Now that it's unstuck, I must speak out. The Caltrans draft EIR section 1.2.1 says the purpose of the proposed project is to improve traffic operations by decreasing traffic congestion and improving peak period travel times. This project would fail to meet its purpose. The project is designed, would not improve traffic, would not decrease congestion, would not improve travel times. That dog won't hunt. I calculate that the commute would get worse than it is today, just because of the project. That would hurt our neighbors. I live in Valleymar, so it's not going to hurt me too much, but I feel for our neighbors. That is the best reason to not implement this project. Failure. There could be better projects. Caltrans says that they considered all alternatives and none were deemed feasible, which I interpret to mean they cost too much. They cost more than this. This one could be extended to succeed at greater cost. Thus, everybody in charge decided that something that improves traffic would cost too much, so we'll do something that degrades traffic. Maybe they don't dare just stand there. Please cancel this project so we don't spend $50 million and 2 years of expected pain and then spend another decade of unnecessary new pain with greater delays looking for a fix for the fix. If we don't have the money to do it right, please don't waste our money doing it wrong. I thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Micah?
All right, guys, I just want to say thank you for the time, allowing me to speak for the moment. I just want to briefly let everyone know, officials and the public, that I'm with Pacific Coast TV, and we are having an event this weekend. It's an open house, so everyone is invited. You guys can come check out our new studio, our HD studio, and yeah, get creative with us. And we're here for the community. We do more than just shoot meetings. We're here for you guys. So come on out, show some support, learn what we got to offer, and yeah, hopefully we can see you guys all there. All right, that's about it.
Great.
Thanks again for your time.
What time?
It is going to be March 28th. Thank you.
Queen
March
12.
28th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. All right? And there's going to be food. So, yep, I hear some yeses already. And if you guys need more information, you can find out at pacificcoast.tv. All right, guys.
Great.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Courtney Conlon is next, followed by Therese Dyer and Richard Harris. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Irvin and members of the City Council. My name is Courtney Conlon. I'm in charge of the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber's strategic focus continues to be the advocate and voice of the business community, provide networking opportunities, provide products and services, as well as support businesses in Pacifica and promote the Pacifica as a tourist destination. Regarding advocacy and being the voice of the business community, lately, it's come up with many of our chamber members that have called us, as you well are well aware of, about the signage ordinance. And since they have called the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, we have mobilized, we're being proactive, and we have formed a subcommittee. And with that subcommittee, we're going to explore possible options. We are telling each of our chamber members that every single city has a sign ordinance. That's not uncommon. It's just the fact that this has been enforced probably for the first time time in years. That's why it seems like it's coming down so hard. So we are going to come up with some possible recommendations and then bring to City Council what we would think would be a win-win for both the business community and the City Council. The next is the commercial ordinance. Several of our chamber members have complained about the vacancies, especially in and around their businesses, and it makes it very hard for businesses to, then they lack foot traffic. They also have a problem of, it not being inviting for people to shop there. So once again, we also have our members that are complaining about the high rent increases upon when they renew their leases. So the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, we have also formed a subcommittee on that. We will be exploring options. We are going to be opening up friendly dialogue to the different property management organizations. And again, we want to work with the city and talk about what we can do as a win-win for something this important to our city. And the next thing I want to just bring up is that this Wednesday, we have Councilmember Mike O'Neill and John Keener, thank you for your time, coming to talk to our chamber members. This Wednesday, we have 2 seminars on the same topic, pending and future infrastructure projects going on in Pacifica. And we've got a breakfast from 8 to 9:30 and a lunch from 12 noon to 1:30. And we encourage all our chamber members to come. We do have a lot that have signed up, very interesting. Then that night, if you haven't had enough business to deal with, get to have some fun. Networking at night at our new Devil Slide tap room from 5:30 to 7. And last but not least, we are underway with our 2015-16 membership directory, and we want to make sure that all Pacifica businesses have a presence. For just $150, they can have a presence for the whole year, and this will increase and help the end user's experience. So we are wanting to really promote as much as we can all of Pacifica. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. Therese Dyer?
Pacifica has a lot of problems, but I can just name a couple tonight. And one is you have a problem with your communications and you have a problem with your planning department and permit division. And when it becomes personal to me, I really get quite angered at it. I mean, after all the attempts that I have made to make it right, I filed a small claim court against the first contractor. Okay, I was never notified of the new court date, thanks to that judge, okay? So then I took the city of Pacifica to small claims court. Well, that judge never signed it, just the clerk checked it off, never gave a reason, kept my documents for 90 days and said, she'd get back with me, so I don't have an answer to that either. So that's corrupt San Mateo County for you. But now getting back to Pacifica, okay, now I paid $7,000 for one roof and I had a warranty on it, and the judge could have awarded me that because he perjured himself and said he didn't have a warranty. Okay, now I paid $14,000 a year ago to get a brand new roof, right? Okay, with this last storm, I seen water coming down my family room again. And my insurance paid $17,000 to the last guy. My insurance paid to get it repaired, so they canceled me. So I had a hard time getting the insurance. So I had to go through government, USAA. Now I have a $5,000 deductible. Okay, let's just make it short and sweet. Why do we have a building inspector? Is she just out there to give a permit? And the permits were given after the job was done on the first contractor. Now I got the best contractor in town to do this one, and I got a 14-year warranty. However, when my insurance adjuster came out, he disagreed. He said it was the roof, and he took pictures where the water was going under the shingles. It was not my chimney. And I guess chimney is not part of the roof. Now, I got 2 estimates for a chimney, and it is crumbling. So I called my insurance company and I told them to send out a new adjuster. But in the meantime, there's a dispute, and I called the building inspector, and I read her job description. She refused to come out. She didn't even answer me. Then she said, if the city manager allows me or permits me, I'll come out. Well, I left a message with the city manager on her answering phone. I didn't get a call from her. I got an email from the planning department saying, do you need a permit for your roof? Give me a break. I want somebody out there because this is a dispute between the insurance company, the roofer, and the estimates for my chimney. So send somebody out.
Thank you, Therese, for those comments. Okay. So with that, I don't have, Richard, were you going to speak on item number 6? Or yeah, so your first step for that. Sorry about that, Richard. Okay, so I don't have any more cards for oral communications, so I'm going to go to item 6 of considerations, a letter of support for the Coastal Commission Coastal Development Permit for the City and County of San Francisco, Sharp Park Pump House Project. So now, Richard, I'm sorry, you could come on up and... are we going to get a staff report?
I thought I would just frame it for you, and then Richard can fill in much of the information that I'm sure you're interested in hearing.
Okay.
As the staff report says, we received a request from Richard Harris on behalf of the Gulf Alliance to submit a letter of support to the California Coastal Commission in support of a project that is before them. We received this request on Wednesday, and so very quickly we put this on the agenda with a sample letter for you to consider, and invited Richard Harris to come to the meeting to be able to speak to you and answer your questions about more of the content and the specifics. So on that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Harris.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Council. I am that Richard Harris. I'm a resident of San Francisco. I grew up in San Mateo County. I've played golf at Sharp Park for 55 years or better. And I am one of the co-founders of the San Francisco Public Golf Alliance. We are a pro bono, all-volunteer group, primarily of golfers, interested in the preservation and improvement of the public golf courses. We've written and we have been in support of San Francisco's proposal, which has been in the works now for 20 years, that as outlined in the letter, that March 10 letter that we have written to the Coastal Zone Commission and copied you and requested your comment on that. Since 1992, when the Coastal Conservancy first began working with San Francisco on to balance the interests at Sharp Park between low-cost public recreation, which is also an historic property recognized as historic asset by City and County of San Francisco under CEQA, recognized as a historical site on the Pacifica General Plan and by the Pacifica Historical Society, to balance that interest with the interest of preserving and protecting endangered species. The Coastal Act defines the protection of public recreation, low and moderate cost public recreation, as a sensitive coastal resource. That is a sensitive coastal resource, the public recreation, low cost, under the Coastal Act, and the Coastal Act requires a balancing when there is competition between different desiderata of the Coastal Act. It requires a balancing, which does not mean toss one out at the expense of another. We have written a very detailed letter to the Coastal Commission, copying you, showing that Pacifica has been part of this work at the golf course since the North Coast County Water District became involved at the behest of the state water boards in the late 90s. There's $10 million of hard costs just been expended to that to extend recycled water irrigation to that golf course. This project was designed to be used 80% on that golf course, the water from this project. All of this is written in detail in the letter that we've presented you. So at this point, Pacifica has been supportive of the continuation of the golf course. The local coastal plan talks about the continued golf use at the golf course and recognizes a need for dredging. That's in the local coastal plan. And so we respectfully request that in the spirit of cooperation that Pacifica has been engaged with San Francisco. San Francisco has taken the lead to go forward with this project, which involves environmental remediation, protection of the species, as ordered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We've given you a cite to that as well, as has been approved by not only the San Francisco Rec and Park Department, Planning Department, San Francisco Board of Supervisors, but Federal Wildlife, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Water Quality Control District, Bay Area Water Quality Control District. All of this is cited here. These agencies have been studying and working on this for years. We respectfully request that the city show its support to the city of San Francisco's effort to protect the species while continuing golf use. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for that report. Do I have any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Degree?
I don't know if you know this. I believe from the past information that the golf course was mandated to do some kind of winnowing of the pond to enable the wetlands to survive and the water to flow. And I believe that's something that's ongoing. Do you know what that something is?
Well, the most recent and authoritative on that is this October 2012 letter. It's called a biological opinion from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Agency. I've given you a citation to that it is at footnote 13 and exhibit 13 to the letter that I cited.
Yeah, the page, what page number is that? Do you have the page number on that?
Well, yes. The orders are at page 38, page 28, at pages 13 to 19, and they go into some detail about what is being ordered.
So that would just be one of my questions is, I believe, I'm assuming that it's done on a regular basis, and that would be one of my concerns about now is to make sure that whatever mitigation is proposed is something that's ongoing. That would be something that I looked for.
That is what it has been. San Francisco is under mandate from U.S. Fish and Wildlife to do that, and there are series of conditions, and it talks about the construction phase, and it talks about the maintenance phase, and it says for 10 years you will be doing this, and it gives them, I don't know, must be 30, a list of a large number of mandates that they're required to do. One of the other mandates is the construction of a new frog pond, and they're mandated to do that by July of this year. that has been delayed by appeals and such, and pending permit requirements to go to the Coastal Zone Commission.
That was by Fish and Wildlife, correct?
U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you.
That's the lead federal agency on this. A permit was required, dredging permit was required from Corps of Engineers. Corps of Engineers says we're not going to do anything without the say-so of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They went to them. They studied it for 17 months, and back and forth, and all direction, opinion from every direction, and they came along and issued this biological opinion to which we give you cite.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Keener?
So I have just one question, and that is, why isn't the city of San Francisco before us? I mean, you're a worthy person and very, very knowledgeable on this, but where are they?
Well, I don't know where they are. They are in the where they are specifically is they've requested a permit, and we they've requested a coastal development permit to the Coastal Zone Commission, and they've requested that as they have been to do what they've been ordered to do. We are the Public Gulf Alliance is an interested entity in that. We're like I said, we're volunteers and pro bono, and we come in and we make a comment. We've let our comment be known to you and others.
Okay.
So they're, I guess if they want to pull the plug on their permit, they'll do that, but they haven't done it yet.
Right. Thank you. I just had a couple questions. So if you could, I think I understand this, but I just want to follow it through. What will happen if you don't do this work?
Well, there was a similar question posed before the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco a year ago. They're in violation of the mandate of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Fish and Wildlife has ordered them to do a bunch of stuff. If they don't do that, then Fish and Wildlife can come in and take whatever measures they have, which could be drastic measures.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you one other thing that was in my letter, but I didn't mention. This matter was also the subject of a lawsuit that went to the U.S. District Court. A lawsuit brought by a lead group called Wild Equity. That lawsuit was dismissed by the federal judge in December of 2012, and was then appealed. That appeal was just heard by the Ninth Circuit 2 weeks ago. And the Ninth Circuit did not give a date by which they will render an opinion, but it's just a continuing issue of disagreeing over items in here. But the issue is the disagreements have come before each of these entities for years.
Great.
And so far the entities have balanced these, although the entities have not referred in their discussions to the Coastal Act, because the Coastal Act wasn't at issue before these other entities. The Coastal Act and these entities see a need to achieve a balance between different desiderata, including low-cost public recreation, and they've struck a balance. The Fish and Wildlife Service essentially did the same thing, and they said, yeah, this is where we strike the balance. If you can do these 30 things, you can keep running this golf course, low-cost public golf course. If they don't do those 30 things, well, they'll hear from the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. And then I had another question relating, so you were referring to the fact that the Coastal Commission has basically two tenets that they stand by. One is a low-cost recreation, and the other is protecting endangered and threatened species.
Those are among the different desiderata in
Right, those are some of the primary, and this, in fact, does do that, according to the Fish and Wildlife and other entities that are looking at this. One of the questions I had in terms of low-cost recreation is, can you tell me how many people annually use the golf course?
Between 45 and 50,000 over the last few years. It'll depend on weather. And this past year, the Sharp Park Golf Course had more play than any golf course owned by San Francisco, more than Harding Park. This is a very popular, well-regarded, it's a nationally regarded golf course. It's in the national golf magazines call it one of the top 50 public golf courses in the country.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And last question, now during construction of this work, the full golf course would remain open, is that correct?
You know, I don't know surely part of it will. There are mandates by the Fish and Wildlife Service that say during construction you will do this and you will do that, and you will have fences to keep these creatures from going there, and you will monitor it, and you will put your equipment here, and exactly how that plays with the continuing operation of the golf course, I don't know for sure. Sounds like to me like one or two of the holes will be subject to some of this, but it looks to me like most of the golf course will continue to operate.
Okay, great, thank you. And it looks like I have one more question from Mayor Pro Tem DeGree.
Right, on in your letter, I just wanted to clarify, when you use the term "staff has advised us" that letters should be submitted, are you talking about the staff of the San Francisco Recreation?
No,
or Fish and Wildlife?
You had a question to me. As to kind of why the request for a letter by the end of March.
I just want to know this time, you mean the question I asked you once before?
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to? No, this is different. I just wanted to know what the word staff refers to when you say staff has advised us that letters should be submitted. Is it the staff of the San Francisco Recreation? It's the in your letter, the second or third letter sentence from the bottom?
No, that was the Coastal Commission staff, the staff person who's working on that is named Stephanie Rexing.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was understanding which staff we were talking about. Okay, thank you.
She said that she will be completing her report around the end of this month, and we'll be putting together a package. And if you want that considered by her in her staff report, she needs to receive it by end of the month.
Right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And I don't think I have any other questions from council, so I'm going to bring it out to the public, and I appreciate your report. Okay, and with that, I think our first speaker is Bo Links, followed by Paul Slavin, and Courtney Conlon.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to come down and support Sharp Park. This is one of the great historical and cultural resources, not just in Pacifica and not just on the coast, but in the entire world. My name is Bo Links. With Richard Harris, I'm a co-founder of the San Francisco Public Golf Alliance. I'm also an avid golfer, and I've been playing Sharp Park. I'm not quite as old as Richard, but I have been playing it for 50 years. and I'm a card-carrying member of the Sharp Park Golf Club. This place is a treasure. It's loved by everybody who plays it. And the historical and the ecological facts are that it's the creation of this golf course, this landscape, that created the habitat that's become so controversial. The frog and the snake are freshwater species. And one of the things that happened when Sharp Park was created is that Laguna Salada, which means salty lake, was transformed into a freshwater oasis. That's why there's a habitat there. And the project that we're asking you to support is not something that was written on a napkin in somebody's kitchen last week. This has been studied, it has been analyzed, reports have been issued by a complete phalanx of administrative agencies. Every responsible public official and agency that has looked at this problem has come out with the same conclusion. The golf course and the species can coexist. That's what that biological opinion is all about. This work is outlined in that opinion. The people who have sought to close the golf course demanded that the city go to Fish and Wildlife and get a permit. That's exactly what the city did. The biological opinion is that permit, and now they're going forward to implement a portion of that biological opinion. And I simply submit that any responsible official should support that action, and it's real simple. If you support the golf course and you want this public treasure to continue as it has for over 80 years, you should send this letter, support this action. It's responsible stewardship. It is the right thing to do, and I thank you very much for your careful attention to it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Paul? And then Courtney, you're up.
Mayor Irvin, council members, I'm Paul Slavin. Let me find my glasses. For more than 2 decades now, the city and county of San Francisco has pursued a comprehensive renovation plan for the Sharp Park Golf Course that would balance the interest of affordable public recreation and historic preservation with the welfare of the federally protected California red-legged frog and the San Francisco garter snake. This long, arduous, and meticulous project has succeeded admirably. The plan has been approved by everyone from the local San Francisco departments up to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Corps of Engineers. The beautiful old course and the frogs and snakes should now live happily ever after. But it hasn't been that easy. In recent years, San Francisco has had to contend at every turn with environmental activists whose goal has been to simply close down the 83-year-old golf course. Unsuccessful in persuading San Francisco, they filed suit in federal court to stop all golf operations at Sharp Park. That suit has been dismissed. Although San Francisco has borne the brunt of defending and maintaining Sharp Park, Pacifica, through its North Coast County Water District, has contributed substantially by partnering with the San Francisco PUC in the recently completed Recycled Water Project, designed to irrigate Sharp Park's fairways with wastewater from the Calera Creek water treatment plant. Pacifica can now further contribute to our common cause by actively supporting San Francisco's application for a coastal development permit required for the next phase of the operation, the Sharp Park Pump House project. I urge Council to express Pacifica's support to the California Coastal Commission for San Francisco's permit application. I hope the Council views this as I do, a welcome opportunity to stand with San Francisco, San Mateo County, and the many others who realize what a unique historical treasure we have at Sharp Park and our obligations for its environmental stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Courtney Conlon? And then that will be followed by Amira Tulak and Ananda Tulak.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. Again, I'm Courtney Conlon, CEO of the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce, and I have here with me tonight our President-elect, Chris Porter, representing our entire Chamber Board of Directors. And we sent a letter this morning to Stephanie from the California Coastal Commission, and we also emailed all of you and City Manager, and we just wanted to make sure that we'd like to read our letter so it goes into the record. And also, Lori, I'd like to thank you personally for your quick action in getting this on the agenda for tonight. I can only imagine how many hurdles it takes to make that happen. Thank you. So, dear Coastal Commission, the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce supports the City and County of San Francisco's coastal development permit application for the Sharp Park Pump House project for habitat recovery work, together with worker safety and infrastructure improvements of the Sharp Park Golf Course. And as all the speakers before me have said, Sharp Park Golf Course has been around for over 80 years. It's a unique and historic resource and a Pacifica community asset. And the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce has, over the past few years, consistently supported the golf course and encouraged efforts to renovate its aging infrastructure. In fact, our 5th annual golf tournament, which we have on Monday, October 5th, 2015, mark your calendars, golfers. This is our way to really continue to do our outreach to create that awareness of this incredible gem in our community. Pacifica's North Coast County Water District, in partnership with the San Francisco PUC, recently extended a recycled water irrigation system to the golf course at a combined local, state, and federal cost of over $10 million. This was part of the coordinated Sharp Park Golf Course renovation efforts going back to a joint 1992 City of San Francisco, California Coastal Conservancy study, which by now includes approvals and permits for the pump house project from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Corps of Engineers, the Bay Area RWQCB, along with the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, Public Utility Commissions, and the Planning and Recreation and Park Departments. That's a mouthful. Again, we are here tonight for the record to urge the City Council, we urge that the Coastal Commission now approve the San Francisco's CDP application so that this pump house project can move forward without further delay. And I'd like to provide copies to the council. May I do so and give it to you? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. Next is Amira. And are you guys going to come up together or you want to speak separately? Is Amira and Ananda Tulak? Hi.
Sure. Hi. I just want to say that me and my sister really love the course. Me and my sister really love the course, and we've been golfing there for many years, and we just really hope that the city does the best thing to help the course. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Amira?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Ananda said, we would really appreciate the City Council working as hard as they can to implement anything that's best for the course, because we really do love it there. For us, golf is our sport. We've been playing for, what is it, like 9 years now? Yeah, 9 years. Oh, 10, sorry, 10 years. And it's what we love the best. Unfortunately, it's harder for us than for other athletes to do what they love, because for us, we can't just go down to the tennis courts or to the basketball courts to play. And there's nowhere really close and affordable that we can go other than Sharp Park. Sharp Park has kind of become our home. It's where we can go and other golfers can go to practice at a place that we can afford and that's really fun, provides a good challenge, and has been in the area and hopefully will continue to be in the area. It provides us some place to do what we love doing best and what we've loved doing the best for years. And so hopefully you can help us help doing what we love to do by doing what's best and passing this. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for your comments. Okay. Lisa Villa, I'm not sure.
Good evening. Lisa Villasenor Velosing. I'll make it sound really easy. Good evening, Mayor Irvin and Council. In addition to the wonderful expertise of Richard, Bo, and Paul, thank you. I'm a proud resident of Pacifica, co-captain of the Sharp Park Business Women's Golf Club, member of the Sharp Park Golf Club, an open space committee member, and a secretary of the San Francisco Public Golf Alliance. I'm also a member of the San Francisco Mayor's Women's Council, Golf Council, which is a newly created entity. It's just in its birth right now, so I'm on the advisory board. So, to say the least, I really love this game. And being born and raised in Los Angeles, I can say I just think this is such an important gem that's in your midst. It's important. It's historic. It's a bit unpolished. And it's very deserving of Pacifica support. Sharp Park is not just about golf. It's a community and a camaraderie. It's public golf prices, and it's got an all-inclusive vibe. In order to keep Sharp Park's welcoming arms open to the public, the subject permit needs to be issued so the habitat can be restored and maintained. So this is a very important concert we need between golfers and the habitat, that we're doing exactly what we've been asked to do. So we'd appreciate if the council would support the permit and the application and write the letter. Thanks so much for your time.
Great, thank you for your comments. Next speaker would be Jeff Velosing, followed by Mary Kettleman and Margaret Goodall.
Thank you, Mayor and the council. My name is Jeff Velosing. I've been a resident and a golfer at Sharp Park since 1986, a resident of Pacifica, I might add. And I'm also the president of the Sharp Park Golf Club, and on behalf of the club, I'd like to ask your support for the permit. As has been mentioned, the golf course is much more than just a simple golf course. It's a community, and we need to keep affordable golf alive in the Bay Area here, specifically in Sharp Park and Pacifica. And I feel I've traveled around to many, many golf courses, and I'm very, very proud when people ask me, where do you play golf? I say, I play in Pacifica at Sharp Park. And it's amazing how far that name carries because of the golf course Sharp Park. Thank you for your support.
Great, thank you for those comments. Mary Kettleman?
Mary Keitelman.
Sorry.
Thanks for the opportunity to address you. Mayor Irvin, Council, City Manager Tinfo, City Clerk O'Connell. I'm going to read my letter, and then I'll leave you copies. As California enters a fourth year of severe drought, it is proactive and forward-thinking to do everything possible to keep our wetlands supplied with water. This letter is in support of using recycled water for landscaping and any other similar applications. Use fresh water wisely and conserve it well for when there is none. Recycled water is good, right? I want to explain, when rain floods the Laguna Salada, the Horse Stable Pond, and surrounding areas, the water is pumped out. In a drought, this is a waste of fresh water. This also has an ongoing long-term drying effect on the wetlands at Sharp Park. And what seems to be happening is the wetland is being drained slowly, little by little, year by year. The overall result is less habitat for the species that rely on this shrinking wetland to survive. And the dynamic, Mr. Lynx was incorrect in stating that the golf course created habitat for the frogs. The frogs are in these types of lagoon habitats up and down the coast. And as these wetlands are regularly pumped out, when the sea level rises or a storm causes a lot of salty ocean water to enter the lagoon, plants and animals that live there, already weakened by less fresh water available to them, are more likely to be overwhelmed by the salt water. Frogs live in coastal lagoons in a saltwater to freshwater gradient, with the saltiest water being on the western edge, closest to the ocean, and the freshwater is on the easternmost end of the lagoon. It is a gradient from most salty to least salty on an east-west line. Frogs are special. There's a paragraph on that. They're really special. They're going out. We need to protect what we have here. It's amazing that they're still here. Some of you grew up here, and you very well know how the coast is eroded and sea level has risen over the years. Railroad tracks, trails that were there are no more. Although the coast is one of the most rapidly eroding in the country, it's not obvious in just a one-day visit. Similarly, the slow draining of Laguna Salada and Horse Stable Pond by various methods, including pumping out of water, is not obvious to the casual observer. In summary, pumping out fresh water during a drought is a precious waste, a waste of a precious resource, and the slow dry out of the wetlands at Sharp Park will only lead to loss of our local wetland species. Additionally, this San Francisco project is in litigation. Until the lawsuit is resolved, Pacifica should hold its comments.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for your consideration.
Margaret Goodall.
You've been asked, Madam Chair and council people, by the San Francisco Golf Alliance president to rubber stamp his support and the golfers' support for San Francisco's mitigated negative declaration for the Sharp Park Golf Course Pump House project. The Harris letter was dated just 5 days ago. Have you had time to read the document you are being asked to support? Moving the cart path on the 14th fairway further east and away from the marsh should have been done years ago. Adding a catwalk around the pump house intake creates an attractive nuisance, which in turn requires fencing according to the Fish and Wildlife biological opinion. Because the water gauge is inside the pump intake structure and cannot be seen from any distance, the fencing eliminates any independent verification of the water levels that are mandated by Fish and Wildlife. I personally want access to that gauge to check on the water levels. I have seen them way too low. The new pond is a good idea. The fact that the Fish and Wildlife Service requires that a pond be built as mitigation for the damage that will be caused by the proposed dredging. That dredging will have the most damaging and profound impacts and is the most important part of this proposal and is a potential violation of the Coastal Act. About 5 years ago, San Francisco invested in a new higher volume pump. Now 10,000 gallons per minute can be removed from Horse Stable Pond and go gushing out onto the beach. With the new pumps, San Francisco has, by lowering the water level, invited the growth of tule at Horse Stable Pond. San Francisco's management of that water level by pumping has created conditions of shallow water that allow tule and cattail to fill the pond. Now San Francisco wants to dredge both Horse Stable Pond and its connection to Laguna Salada in order to drain Laguna Salada more quickly. With lower water in Laguna Salada, the same natural processes that filled Horse Stable Pond with tule will operate at Laguna Salada. The burning question is, for Pacifica, do we want to keep a lagoon wetland alive, or do we want to turn it into a salty, dead water hazard? For these and many other reasons, please do not write in support of San Francisco's negative declaration to the Coastal Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next speaker is Stan Zeven, followed by Julie Lancel. And that's the last two speakers I have, so if anybody else didn't get a chance, please fill out a yellow card.
Good evening, City Council, City Manager. A few points. Firstly, is the City Council aware that there is an ongoing lawsuit against our partner at Sharp Park, the City of San Francisco, regarding this very pump house project? Given the ongoing lawsuit, this might not be the best time for Pacifica to support a project that is going through the courts. Secondly, in the agenda packet for this issue, there was no mention of San Francisco requesting this support from Pacifica. The only name associated with this request is not a member of either San Francisco government or Pacifica's government, nor does he seem to live in Pacifica. For Pacifica to move so quickly without due diligence might not be in our best interests. Thirdly, salinity. Because of the artificially low water levels in the pond due to the pumping, ocean salt water is able to leach into the pond, creating a salinity high enough at times to kill the frogs. Dredging, the crux of the matter. With respect to the Coastal Commission's policy and comments, the Coastal Act does not allow dredging if there is less damaging alternative to the dredging. The usual method for controlling tule and cattail growth is to have a water level high enough so that these species can't grow in the steeper water. Due to mismanagement, the water level in the pond has dropped so low that these plants have choked off the pond. Furthermore, without the natural washout after storms, there is a good possibility that there are sulfur compounds trapped in the pond and lagoon sediment, which, if dredged, will release the sulfur into the water, causing a drop in the pH and killing frogs and other species. The solution is to bring the water level up, and then, when the frog breeding season is over, mow the tule and cattails with marsh mowing equipment, leaving their stump below the water level so they can't grow back. This is the process that is used all over the Delta. Lastly, this artificial managed wetlands is slowly choking to death. Ocean rise, which will eventually overwhelm Rockaway Beach and later Lindemar Beach, will leave only Sharp Park Beach. If the berm is reinforced, the Sharp Park Beach will also eventually disappear along with the wetlands behind it. When that happens, threatened homes in Sharp Park also lose their best chance at protection. And as a final little statement, historical note, when the Golfing Association claims that when the golf course was built, that 41 San Francisco garter snakes magically appeared. And under their protection, by 2009, we counted 0. Thank you.
Julie Lansell?
Thank you very much, Julie Lansell. I'm tempted to start rebutting statements, but I'm not going to do that. I think there's the opportunity for a rather healthy conversation about what are the causes and what are the consequences of what's been going on. I don't necessarily agree with some of the other speakers. But first of all, I'd just like to, I think that this effort to address the issue of the tules has been delayed for way too long. When it just troubles me so much to, over the years, be walking and seeing the tules filling up the little gully or stream that goes into Horstable Pond, and see Horstable Pond filled with tules, and as well as Laguna Salada. I'm so grateful that the City of San Francisco and the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service recognize that it's absolutely critical for the species in this area. I mean, if the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service has signed off on this and supported this, I think they are a very good and very credible source of information. So the fact that this project, that is what this project proposes to do, is to remedy that and make it possible for the water to flow, make it possible for the snakes and frogs to approach the edge of Horstable Pond, it's absolutely critical that that take place. And I appreciate that the city and the environmental agencies agree with that. It's just, I want to thank the council members for paying close attention to this. Specifically, I've worked with Mayor Pro Tem Degree very early on, 7 years ago with this, and we followed this closely. It's absolutely essential that with the help of environmental agencies who are providing direction, that this work be done to save the species. This work is not being proposed to harm the species, and that they're controlling the water level is impacted by those tules growing in and filling up the space. And that's what causes the flooding and previous lawsuits preventing the city of San Francisco from doing the remediation work that would save the species in order to prove a point. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Julie. I don't have any other cards. Did I get everyone? Hopefully I got everyone. Okay, great. So that means it's going to be coming back to council. Anyone would like to start with comments they might have? Councilmember Keener.
Yeah. So I have a letter I'd like to read. First of all, I'll just summarize it. So one thing that we have not heard is what the project actually is. And so that'll be the first part of the letter. The second part, I would say, is the objectives of the project and supporting a statement of support for the City of San Francisco's permit application. And the final part of the letter is a request that the water levels in Horse Stable Pond, which are so important for reproduction of the red-legged frog, be monitored, and we are requesting that they be monitored by the residents of Pacifica that are currently monitoring them. And so we're asking that access to the gauge not be restricted. So with that, I'll just read through the letter and we'll take it from there. Okay? Okay. California Coastal Commission. Dear Commissioners, we have been asked by Mr. Richard Harris, Jr., representing the San Francisco Public Golf Alliance, to support the application of the City of San Francisco for a coastal development permit to do the pump house project on the Sharp Park Golf Course. The golf course is located in the City of Pacifica within the coastal zone. The pump house project consists of, 1, construction of a perennial pond, approximately 1,600 square feet in size, located approximately 400 to 500 feet southeast of Horse Stable Pond. That is located up toward the GGNRA ponds. And I've interjected some commentary there. Number 2, realignment of a portion of an existing golf cart path located west of the fairway for golf course hole number 14 and east of the tee box for the golf course hole number 15. Number 3, removal of sediment and emergent vegetation within Horse Stable Pond and the connecting channel that links Horse Stable Pond with Laguna Salada. And I should mention here, again, this is an extra statement, that only about maybe a quarter of Horse Stable Pond closest to the pump house will be cleared of vegetation. But the channel that connects Laguna Salada to Horse Stable Pond will all be cleared. So there will be vegetation left in Horse Stable Pond, and Laguna Salada, of course, won't be touched either. 4, construction of a maintenance walkway approximately 4.6 feet in width at the existing Horse Stable Pond pump house. 5, replacement of a wooden retaining wall near the pump house with a concrete retaining wall at the existing Horse Stable Pond pump house. 6, construction of steps from the access road to the existing Horse Stable Pond pump house. So this description is quoted from page 1 of the San Francisco Planning Department's mitigated negative declaration for the pump house project, dated January 17th, 2014, and I have a web address for that. The mitigated negative declaration was approved March 25th, 2014, agenda item number 14075 by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. So we understand that this project will involve dredging of Horse Stable Pond and the connecting channel that links it with Laguna Salada to remove tules. The objectives of the dredging are to free up flow from Laguna Salada to Horse Stable Pond and to reduce clogging of the screens over the pumps at Horse Stable Pond. The project will impact habitat for the red-legged frog and the San Francisco garter snake, a threatened species and endangered species, respectively. Assuming that the dredging operation is legally permissible, we support the City of San Francisco's permit application. We note that several residents of Pacifica monitor the levels of water in Horse Stable Pond using the gauge attached to the pump house. The water levels in Horse Stable Pond are important for the reproduction of the red-legged frog. We ask that their access to the gauge, that is the access of the several residents of Pacifica, to the gauge not be restricted by construction activity nor any fencing or locked gates in the completed project. Sincerely, Lori Tinfo, City Manager. So that's...
And that we haven't even had it.
Yeah.
We've
got to discuss.
Yeah. Councilmember O'Neill?
It's been brought up, and we received a couple emails earlier this afternoon, that being it's a pending litigation, that the City of Pacifica should probably not send its letter of support. What's the city attorney's opinion on that?
The current litigation does not impact the Coastal Commission's ability to grant or deny the coastal development permit. So that action is going to be going forward regardless of what occurs with regard to the litigation. So, in my opinion, that separate litigation does not impact the council's ability or authority to send a letter in support of or against the coastal development permit.
So there's basically, there's no harm to the city to send a letter of support?
No.
In a nutshell, no liability, nothing?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Degree?
Can I further go on question on that? So it doesn't affect our ability to write a recommendation letter or not, but how would it affect the actual, where does everything stand with an appeal like that? Does that mean all the things that they are proposing will not happen until that's completed, or how does that go?
Well, my understanding is that litigation has nothing to do with the issuance of this coastal development permit.
No, I understand that.
So there is no impact of that litigation on the issuance of the coastal development permit. If, in fact, the Coastal Commission moves forward and issues a coastal development permit, that would be another opportunity for an organization or an entity to file suit against the issuance of the coastal development permit. So that litigation was not addressing the item that is before the council tonight.
True. I was just trying to figure out, we're going through a lot of effort for what? I mean,
the coastal development permit will not be affected by that litigation.
Okay. So my understanding is, so the Coastal Commission could say, yes, go ahead, it's permitted, and action could start even though the lawsuit is still in process?
Well, I'm not familiar with all of the requirements that are necessary in order for this project to move forward.
Okay.
It may be that litigation is going to affect a different part of the project, but for purposes of what is before you tonight, whether or not you want to support or not the coastal development permit application, that is not going to be impacted by the litigation.
Got it. Thank you.
I had a quick question regarding the flooding. I don't know if you can answer it or what, but if we don't pump out or do something about the flooding, aren't the houses and the vicinity also in danger of flooding, or, that's also a concern as well as the golf course?
So I'll weigh in on this. Staff just received this, as I mentioned, on Wednesday, and really, we have not analyzed anything about the project. We've not had time to do that.
Right.
And it didn't seem to be necessary to allow the council to simply, if you choose, make a statement of support for the project moving forward with the Coastal Commission. So I'm afraid we can't really give you a good answer to that. If that is something the council would like us to spend time on, we certainly can do that. But given the deadline of March 31st to get a letter out, and this being our only opportunity to bring it to the council, we just did not have time to do any analysis.
Sure. But we do have a mandatory requirement from the Fish and Wildlife to mandate that we do this work, and if we don't do this work, this is done in order to preserve an endangered species and keep a low-cost recreation golf course in working, so it can continue to function. So I am actually, and I highly respect the opinion of the Fish and Wildlife organization, and the fact that this has been mandated. I understand that it is essential to do this work if we want to retain the golf course. So as a longtime member of this city, understanding that it has over 45,000 people using it every year, and understanding that we have endangered species in there that need this work to be done, I am a full and strong supporter of getting this moving in the direction that has been requested by that letter. So I have no problems with the letter as it was written by you. Councilmember O'Neill?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I guess, did you write this one letter here, John?
Yeah.
Okay. To me, it just seems very superfluous and just regurgitates a lot of information that the Coastal Commission knows, and I think kind of down and dirty is better to send. So I would go with the letter, I guess you composed, Lori? Right, okay. I would maybe just do one little adjustment, is you have in here, I'm looking for it right now, public recreation, that maybe you add, oh yeah. The golf course also provides low-cost public and visitor recreation opportunities and coastal access. I mean, that would be the only thing, but I would like to, if it's agreeable to everybody else, make a motion to approve the letter and...
Can I see that?
Pardon?
I'm sorry, may I ask? I don't recall seeing that letter. I've seen the
It's
letter.
in the council packet.
In the packet.
What page is that?
Here, you want my computer?
It's at it's the last 2 pages of the report.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
It's the last 2 pages of the item, the report.
So
There's
does
a
it have
draft
number?
letter. Sorry?
Does it have a number?
Page number.
Do
Page
you want to just read it?
104.
Page 104.
You want to just read it out loud?
You want me read it?
Okay with you?
Blah, 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 dear Coastal Commissioners. By unanimous vote at its regularly scheduled public meeting on March 23rd, 2015, Pacifica City Council directed me to write this letter of support for City and County of San Francisco's coastal development permit application for the Sharp Park Pump House project, and urging the Coastal Commission to approve San Francisco's permit application. Sharp Park Golf Course is a unique and significant Pacifica cultural and historical resource, designated a Pacifica historic site in the Pacifica General Plan, and declared to be a significant cultural and historical resource by Pacifica's official historian, the Pacifica Historical Society. The golf course also provides low-cost public recreation and coastal access to a broad cross-section of golfers and other residents and visitors of San Francisco and San Mateo counties. The San Francisco and Pacifica agencies have worked together since the 1990s in a recently completed $10+ million recycled water irrigation system, primarily designed to serve the Sharp Park Golf Course, which in late 2014 began delivering irrigation water to the course. The pump house project proposed by the property owner, the City and County of San Francisco, would provide badly needed infrastructure improvement and maintenance, together with habitat enhancement for endangered species to this historically and culturally significant public recreational facility. The City of Pacifica, its general plan, and City Council has long been on the record in favor of maintaining the historic 18-hole Sharp Park Golf Course. By this letter, the City Council confirms the City of Pacifica's continuing support for keeping and renovating the 18-hole Sharp Park Golf Course, while simultaneously enhancing habitat for endangered species. The City and County of San Francisco's Pump House project strikes what we believe to be an appropriate and compatible balance between these twin goals. The City of Pacifica respectfully urges the Coastal Commission to approve the coastal development permit for the City and County of San Francisco's Pump House project. Sincerely, Lori Tinfo, City Manager. So that's the letter that was in your packet. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we send the letter that's in the packet, authored, and have Lori Tinfo sign it, City Manager.
You want discussion?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
I'm not.
You have to second it for discussion.
Second.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
You can second.
Well, I don't know if we need more discussion right now.
Mayor can second it.
I can second it? Okay. I'll second it.
Okay, my only thoughts on this are a couple. One, that it came so late and that the history goes back so far. And so the Coastal Commission is being asked for a permit for some specific reasons, and yet the rhetoric seems to be going to market a approval of the golf course, which is, I don't think, necessary. So let me go back in history. So the question I asked a little bit earlier is like, how did we get to this position? Because at all times, for the protection of our residencies, we were supposed to be controlling flooding, and the other thing, we were supposed to be protecting our wetlands. And I specifically remember, this is going back, I think, at least to 2007 for me, is that the tules and the all greenery growing in that area, Horseshoe Pond, was to be continually monitored and kept at a thickness that would allow an adequate flow. So I'm a little concerned, and as I mentioned it earlier, I would like to know, I just want to say that concerns me, and I would like to see something stronger in there, as like it looks, if I can be blunt, like maybe an upkeep that was prescribed at one time to keep these things in good condition weren't followed, but I haven't had time to prove that, and that I would definitely want to make sure that whatever I'm recommending would be something that would be evaluated on a regular basis so that we don't find out 3 years later that we've messed up, and how do we answer for that? So the other thing that concerns me is that if we wanted to have a discussion before us as a council, whether or not we wanted to approve a golf course over something else, I think that would need to be done with more public dialogue, which I don't think is the question here. So I think I actually appreciate what Councilman Keener put together, because it is a little bit more specific about taking the notion of the project as something to protect from flooding and to protect the wetlands and the endangered species, as well as protecting the continuation of the golf course, makes more comfort for me. I don't know if you're following me on that, but those are just the kinds of things. And the fact that it didn't come from the city of San Francisco sounds to me like they really not really worried about it. The other thing is that I still have great faith in the Coastal Commission that their eye is on the Coastal Act mandates, which is to provide low-cost recreation and to provide protection for endangered species. So I'd like to say, well, why can't we just be comfortable with that? Why do we need to get involved? And so then it comes back to, are we trying to make a statement that we are supporting the golf course versus anything else? I mean, So those are the things that I've been torn, and my major complaint is these things were talked about in July of 2014 and January in 2014. By the time I actually realized it was on my this lovely computer, it was Thursday or Friday evening on a very heavy schedule, and I want to be as fair and as open as possible. And I actually really like the golf course. I pass it and say that is an inspirational and mental health, spiritual thing for people. So there you have it. And it's also Scottish, and that's my heritage, and I'm a history person, so it's not like I'm against the golf course per se. So, you know, truthfully, as I sit here, all that stuff is going through me, and a lot will depend on what you folks say before I know what I'm going to do here.
Okay. Council Member Keener.
Yeah. So the things I don't like about the letter that is in our packet is that it sounds like a just, you know, a marketing scheme for the golf course. And we've seen how many people are here tonight supporting the golf course. It doesn't need any marketing from us. But what none of them said was what the project actually consisted of. And although I'm regurgitating this from the mitigated negative declaration, it at least says to the recipient that we have looked at this project carefully and considered it carefully before giving our recommendation, our support for the permit application.
I'm sorry, I phased out on that. Do you mind that last, can you repeat that last little paragraph? Just the last couple sentences.
Okay, now you've got me
I think
phasing out.
I think what I heard you saying is that it makes it look like we've done due diligence and thorough study, and we're prepared to support it.
Right.
Emphasis on the due diligence and thorough, fair study. Did I catch that?
That's right.
So I didn't phase out. Okay.
No, I did.
Council Member O'Neill.
Okay, I was kind of responding to some of what Sue said, is that the flooding of the houses is more in regards to the berm, I believe, and unless someone can correct me. But, so the flooding of the houses is not a real big issue in regards to what is before us.
Okay.
Okay, so there's really no need to cloud the issue with that. It's a lot of toolies, let's just put it that way.
I'm trusting you.
Okay, timelines. I know we've called up there, and I've tried to find out if various projects here in Pacifica are on the agenda of the Coastal Commission. In regards to the timeliness of when they brought it to us, the Coastal Commission really doesn't release their agendas, and you kind of like have a week to get it together to go present your case or to try to get public support or opposition or whatever your choice is. So the timeliness of this, I think, is kind of out of the control of the, I guess you might want to call them the advocates or the applicants, or whatever. In regards to, is this something that's needed? The Fish and Wildlife is requiring this and supports this, and going forward because it's part of their negative declaration and also part of the, I guess it was an agreement or something between the golf course and that. So if we don't support it, we're kind of like bucking Fish and Wildlife in regards to what, you know, they're supporting. And you were saying like approving a golf course. We're not really approving a golf course because the golf course is already there. There's nothing to approve. We're just really merely approving something that will take care and help with mitigating some of the problems with the wetlands and stuff like that of the frogs and the snakes. Well, I guess there's no snakes per one of the statements, but of the frogs. So, you know, it's all kind of like, it is kind of like all wrapped up in one package, but a lot of the stuff, the flooding is not an issue. The agenda is the timeliness of the Coastal Commission. Fish and Wildlife supports this and going to this. I just think it's probably prudent to do that and does anybody know why there's 18 holes in a golf course? Because there's 18 shots and a fifth of scotch.
That's the Irish version.
Okay. I think you said something that was really important, Mike, that, we really need to focus on the fact that what we are doing is just approving this plan to move forward with the work
Support of this plan.
Yeah, support of this plan that was mandated by Fish and Wildlife. And if it is not done, then there will be much more severe consequences and could mean closing the golf course. So I think I trust the Fish and Wildlife Service. I would like to see the work done in order to protect the endangered species that are living there, and that was the opinion of the Fish and Wildlife, that work needed to be done in order for us to proceed. So I feel very strongly that I want to support this strongly. I want to see this work move forward in order to do the right thing, get a win-win situation where we're preserving the endangered species and we are also preserving the golf course. And in order to do that, we have to, this has to go forward. So,
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Because I love discussion, so. In no way, let me make it clear, in no way am I against what the Fish and Wildlife is trying to achieve. That's not the problem. And the flood issue, I just happen to be worried about flood, but I'll accept that it's not part of this. And what was your third one?
Timeliness of the Coastal Commission agenda.
Yes. Well, if I kind of go back to the part where if we're marketing the golf course rather than focusing in on what is needed for the protection of the species and also for the mandate to have the wetlands cleared up so that they function properly, which sideline is going to help the golf course, then the timeline, I don't think, to put that on the Coastal Commission's agenda doesn't seem that worthy for me. So would you consider, in order to balance it off, because as I said, I'm trying to focus on, rather than getting into a marketing thing for anything, I just want to hone in on what I trust the Coastal Commission will also see and what the Fish and Wildlife are already saying. So I'm saying two things. One, who the heck cares whether we say one way or another? It's not going to affect the quality of what is being proposed, the science part. But to also be more balanced, would you be willing to take the letter from the manager and add at least the last paragraph suggested by Councilman Keener? And would that be enough for you, Councilman
Note
Keener?
that several residents of Pacifica monitor the levels of water in Horstable Pond using the gauge attached to the pump house. The water levels in Horstable Pond are important to the reproduction. We ask that their access to the gauge not be restricted by construction activity, nor any fencing, as long as there's always a gauge available to ensure that we're following the guidelines that Fish and Wildlife are indicating that we need to follow. I'm okay with that.
Okay. If I had my druthers, I'd want to be even more picky than that, but I'll think I can
Okay.
live with that.
I kind of wanted to respond to one thing is you said marketing the golf course. I kind of doubt the Chamber of Commerce sends out Coastal Commission agendas to market the golf course.
Anyway,
No, and I'm not against marketing. I'm
I
just
have
trying
no
to keep it
problem with
simple.
adding that paragraph to the letter from the
Manager's
city
letter?
manager. And then I guess, can I make a motion?
You're going to want to withdraw?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll withdraw my first motion And John looks like he pressed his button. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay.
I'm waiting for you.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we authorize the city manager to sign the letter she composed with the addition of the paragraph from John's letter that starts "we note" and ends with "completed project," the last paragraph. Did you want to?
I just want to ensure that the levels, that all goes hand in hand with, what levels we're talking about. They just want to observe excess.
Right.
Like a checks and
Yeah,
balances.
that's all fine.
That's all it says.
That's all fine.
That's all it
Need a
says.
second.
Yeah.
Need a second, please?
Yes,
Second.
Okay.
thank you. Okay, with that, let's vote. And that passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh, we
we're
have
going to
one
take a
more.
quick 5-minute break.
Thank you. That was good. That was good. Wastewater equalization basin site feasibility evaluation, and this is an information-only item. Please go forward.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, City Manager Tinvo, members of the staff, members of the public in attendance and watching on TV, especially those members of the public who are here to talk on this item. I know it's very late. Go through this very important item with a lot of information. I'll be as brief and succinct as possible. My name is Joshua Cosgrove. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of the Wastewater Department. I'm also here with the Department Director, Dave Brom, and Steve Clary, who works for RMC Engineering, and he was the principal engineer of the wet weather equalization basin evaluation, site feasibility evaluation. And we are here to present the wastewater department equalization basin site feasibility evaluation to you and discuss it. So I want to start with a discussion of how the idea of an equalization basin originated. It comes from our 2011 sanitary sewer system master plan. As part of that plan, it included a capacity assurance discussion and analysis, and that basically looked at our wastewater system, our sanitary sewer system, and looked at ways of assuring that the system has capacity to deal with whatever the flows may be on a particular day. And there were really three alternatives that were discussed in the master plan on assuring the capacity. One was essentially replacing the entire sanitary sewer system as rapidly as possible, including some upgrades to the system, increasing capacity in certain areas, but essentially replacing the pipes as fast as possible. Another alternative was replacing the sanitary sewer system over the 20 years of the plan, also adding a redundant or backup force main from Lindemar pump station to the Clare Creek water recycling plant, and then an equalization basin at the Clare Creek water recycling plant. And then the third alternative, which is what the wastewater staff chose as the alternative to move forward on, was a equalization basin in the lower Lindemar area to handle excess flow during wet weather. So So some of the benefits of the equalization basin in the lower Lindemar in Pacifica: one, provide greater sanitary sewer system capacity during wet weather events. So as the rain increases in our aging wastewater system, it gets into the cracks of the pipes of the system. It dramatically increases the flow. The basin would provide a storage capacity for that flow to go into at a certain level and equalize the flow that is coming from the Lindemar area into the Clare Creek water recycling plant. It would reduce the potential for sanitary sewer flooding in the lower Lindemar neighborhood. It would allow repairs and maintenance work to be performed on the wastewater force main. That's an important part of this plan as well. We don't have that capacity right now to be able to store wastewater to do maintenance or repairs on the wastewater force main. And it creates operational flexibility in the system, which is very valuable in a wastewater system. And I want to talk a little bit also about the reason why it's very important that we deal with capacity. So if you remember, the City of Pacifica is under two civil judgments: a cease and desist order and a consent decree. And in those legal judgments, we are not allowed to have any capacity-related overflows past 2017. So what does that mean? So if we don't build an equalization basin, we try to replace the system as fast as we can, and we are unable to do that past 2017, and we have a significant wet weather event, let's say a significant wet weather event like we had on December 11th, it would mean if we overflowed, we were subject to fines. And for example, the typical fine would be $20 per gallon of overflow. So on the December 11th storm that we had about 300,000 gallons of wastewater that overflowed in that area. You're looking at potentially $6 million in fines if something similar occurs after 2017. So the basin is a very important part of our master plan, of our capacity assurance plan. It buys us time to replace our system over 20 years. Now with this slide, and I apologize, it's a little hard to see on the screen, but this slide is giving you basically what the basin will look like, a cutaway version of the basin. As you can see, it's circular in design, is what we're looking at, and we would be looking at anywhere from 80 to 100 feet in diameter. It would be anywhere from 50 to 70 feet in depth. The roof, which you see there, would be at ground level on either site. And the feasibility evaluation itself goes into more detail on actually how it would be dug out and built. So that is in the study, in the evaluation. You can see that it shows where the ground level, the water level would be in comparison to the roof. And one thing I want to point out is this tank would be infrequently filled with water. This is something that we would only use on significant wet weather events or potentially that maintenance of the force mains. So we're talking 3, 4, 5 times out of the year potentially that it would be used. If you look at this current water year we're in, from October to now, we would have used this maybe 2 or 3 times. The rest of the time it would be empty. What you also will see is this is a sealed system with odor control that will be a part of it. The roof will be engineered to handle traffic weight. We can have parking spaces on top, planter boxes, things like that. We would not want a structure on there, but you could have the parking spaces, like I said, on there. So there would still be a use above the tank. Again, it will be at ground level and usable. So a little bit about how the wet weather equalization basin site feasibility evaluation was produced. We hired RMC Engineering to develop this document, and they had their engineering expertise. They also incorporate input from the wastewater staff, from us in wastewater, from the city council, and from the public. We had a public meeting that occurred August 14th, 2013, and from that meeting there were many comments that were made, and I tried to outline in the staff report the main points from that meeting, but all that was used, all that input was used to deliver today this evaluation, this discussion of this evaluation to help you to make your choice. So after the work that RMC did, after evaluating the input from the sources, we, your wastewater staff, have settled on the following two sites as the most viable sites for a wet weather equalization basin. One, Site A, which is the Linamar Park and Ride lot, and two, which is Site C1, the Community Center Front Parking Park and Ride lot. And then I'm going to go into more detail on the site plan of those basins and the advantages and disadvantages of either site. So this is Site A, and what you're looking at is an aerial view of the Linamar Park and Ride. So to the left of the screen, as we're looking at it, that's where the Pacific Ocean is. You see Linamar Boulevard roughly going diagonally in the middle there. Linamar Shopping Center on the lower left. The lower Linamar neighborhood, Arguello and Anza to the upper right. And you see the circular basin built right next to where the existing trailers are for Caltrans. Now, what I want to note at the beginning of this site is we have the flexibility of putting the basin throughout this site. So while you see that it was drawn in this area on this screen, we also can put it in the middle. It can be put more closer towards the gas station as well. That's part of the determination if this site is chosen. One of the things you'll note with this is there's very little piping that's required. If you remember the other sites, and you'll see the next slide that shows the other site, the piping requirements are much less. Pretty much, 90% of the flow coming into the Linamar pump station, the main wastewater pump station for Linamar, runs right by here, either through Linamar Boulevard or down Arguello, and then from Anza to Linamar pump station. So it's all right there where the equalization basin would go. So operationally, it's much less complex than the alternatives. And then this is an aerial view of Site C1, which is the basin located at the Park and Ride parking lot for the community center. So in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the basin, you'll see the community center right there, and you'll see the significant amount of piping that goes into it being located there. You'll see that it is directly adjacent to the wetlands, which is also important in the discussion of this. You will see that it is right next to the community center, so construction will significantly impact the use of the community center. And there's many different considerations that go into this site when it comes to the piping. You'll see it run parallel to Highway 1, so easements will be required to do that. You'll see it run, again, adjacent to that wetlands, an environmentally sensitive area. So all those are important considerations to choosing this site. So now a little bit more detail about Site A, which is the Linamar Park and Ride lot. The estimated cost is about $12.8 million for this project here. That includes the cost of land. We had our wastewater engineer study the cost of the land at both sites, A and C1. We have reconfirmed with Caltrans. Caltrans owns both sites. They are willing to sell, or there is a willingness to sell. The discussion hasn't gone much beyond their willingness to sell. And then in C1, I'm going to discuss, there's a little bit more that has to go with that land. So $12.8 million includes building the basin, includes the land. It also includes, as part of the land on this site, the ability to sell a significant portion of the Linamar Park and Ride lot. If there is future commercial building that wants to go on there, that can still take place. Basically where the basin is located, that will need to be set aside, but the rest can be sold for potential development. And so we included a credit of selling approximately 70,000 square feet of that land. And that's one of the things that lowers the cost of that specific project. So an advantage of this site, constructing the basin across from Highway 1 provides some protection from sea level rise. The council is well aware of sea level rise and the issues of that, and locating it right next to the beach, right next to the pump station, it is going to be difficult from going forward if the sea level continues to rise. We've already, as a city, we've already had to retreat some from the beach. If you remember the houses that used to be on the beach there, those had to be torn down, and we had to retreat some already. That will continue to occur over the next decades, if you will. And so one of the things that this site protects from is it's much farther away from the ocean. There's less construction impact to the public compared to the alternative. So whereas at the community center, it's going to take up parking that is used daily by the users of the community center, this would take place at a parking lot that is used, but much less than that. It would not impact traffic along Linamar Boulevard at all. Everything would be at the Linamar Park and Ride. So less construction impact to most of the public. Now, a disadvantage, construction takes place adjacent to private structures. Wherever you build it in that Linamar Park and Ride, it's going to be adjacent to some homes, potentially adjacent to a business, either the gas station or across from like the McDonald's. So that's certainly a very important consideration. It would not be visible to the public. As I mentioned, the roof of the basin at this site would be no more really than 2 feet from the existing ground level. So you're able to really hide that through, some mitigation of the parking area. So it really would look very similar to just a flat ground surface. And the interior would have atmospheric controls to eliminate odors. So at both sites, this is part of both sites, we would engineer the basin to control for odors. And again, these would be odors that would occur only the few times out of the year that the basin is filled. So site C1, the community center front park and ride lot. The estimated project cost at this site is $16.1 million. Again, that includes land. It is not adjacent to private structures. That is an advantage of this site. Constructing the basin across from Highway 1, again, provides some protection from sea level rise, so similar to Site A. Again, similar to Site A, it would not be visible to the public. At this site, we are able to put it at exactly ground level. The interior, again, would have atmospheric controls to eliminate odors. Now, a disadvantage, there would be significant impact to the community center and skate park from the construction activities. There would be many parking spaces that would be eliminated during construction of the basin. I hesitate to say the entire front parking lot will be taken, but a significant part of it will by either the construction activities or the equipment. So it will be very significant to the activities at the community center and skate park. And then the existing wetlands at this site, this is part of the discussion we had with Caltrans, again, initial discussions and reconfirmed just recently in the last couple weeks. The wetlands would have to be a part of this. We would have to maintain the existing wetlands. What that means as far as cost, we're not exactly sure. We don't know, I don't know exactly how to calculate that cost, but it would be significant. These would be wetlands we would essentially own and have to maintain. And then also one of the disadvantages at this site includes the significant piping requirements. Double the piping requirements at Site A, and along with the increased piping requirements, the potential easements along Highway 1 and in front of Taco Bell on the beach, which may be very, very difficult to get and costly to get. That's another very important consideration and disadvantage of this site. And so here is a projected timeline, and I'm getting to the end of the presentation, so thank you for bearing with me. This just gives you an idea of how long it will take to actually construct this. If you remember, after 2017, per our cease and desist order and consent decree, we are not allowed to have any capacity-related overflows. So the timeline of this is very important to consider. Construction is about 14 months. There's the cutter soil mix wall that needs to be constructed initially, then the excavation, rebar, shotcrete placement, all those parts of constructing this basin. It's going to take a significant amount of time, 14 months, more than a year. And as you know, projects like this can vary, can be a little bit less, it can be a little bit more. So that is an important part of this consideration. And that is the end of my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, Director Dave Grom is with me, Steve Clary of RMC Engineering. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. And do I have questions from council? Anybody? Councilmember O'Neill?
And I have quite a few. I don't know if you want to have John go for it. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so my understanding is this is basically an alternative to increase the capacity without just redoing all, whatever, 90 miles of sewer lines that we have in the city, correct?
Yeah, at a short, rapid period, yes. It gives us time to replace the system.
Right, and then it'll also be there when eventually in 20 years or 30 years, the entire system's replaced, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it saves us a lot of upfront costs and issuance of debt, et cetera. Do you have any idea when those trailers are going to be removed from the parking lot?
No, I don't. I don't know if we have had any discussion with Caltrans.
We don't have an absolute time commitment, but they're aware of our schedule, and they've given indications they'd be out. Now, they were supposed to be out already, so why they're hanging around, we're not sure. But they are willing to sell that parcel, and they're aware of our timeline. So when they say they're willing, they've got that in mind.
Are they using those for the bridge, San Pedro Bridge now?
I don't know what they're using it for now. They were talking about the closeout of the Devil's Slide work, but why they're still there now, I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's just that work of closing out Devil's Slide and finishing up with odds and ends of the tunnel.
Okay. So again, so it could be placed anywhere on the site, but there. Oh, I'm sorry, Van. Did you have something? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add some information. Yes, that's being used by the engineer's part of, it's an engineer's office for the construction of the Route 1 San Pedro Creek Bridge Replacement Project. So the answer to your question is yes.
So then theoretically, when the bridge is finished, they'll be gone, right? theoretically?
Well, unless there's another project that Caltrans is going to endeavor, but theoretically, the answer is yes.
Okay. So you said you can't have any, there'll be no structures on top of it, but the rest of the site can be available for use. Now, would it still be available for buses to use as a transit hub or park and ride?
Yes.
Okay. And the odor control bed, how big is this? Is the first I've ever heard of an odor control. I called it. I have written down bed, but I don't know. Is that how big is that? That's above ground?
Yeah, I'll let Steve Clare with RMC discuss that.
Yes, when we say above ground, it's at grade level. It'll look like to the eye, to the person walking by, it'll look like a bark bed, a landscape bark bed with sprinklers on it. We might actually grow a few plants, but we won't cover it in plants. On one of the drawings, we showed how big it would be. I can't remember the dimensions, but it's not a little 2-foot by 2-foot patch. It's probably something like a 300 square foot patch, and it goes down probably 5 or 6 feet. But the surface feature is it would be no higher than a curb and gutter kind of containment wall, maybe 6 inches, and then just sprinkled. So it's very innocuous that way.
Okay, and then
I'd like to add that we do have such a filter at the plant, and we use them, and they're critical. That's why the plant doesn't smell, because of those beds.
Okay. I don't know if I'd quite say the plant doesn't smell.
Well, the plant has smelled in time, but we have fixed those problems, and I think everybody has to admit the plant doesn't smell on a day-to-day basis.
No, right. I mean, yeah, but you can smell the cookies being baked fairly often. Let's see okay, the wetlands. Who owns them now? Is that Caltrans?
Caltrans.
Is that?
Yeah, Caltrans owns it. It's part of the overall parcel there. So that's why buying that C1 parcel, the one near the community center, you get a wetlands in the bargain, is that it's part of the parcel. And I believe it's a mitigation measure, or it's got a caveat on the title, and it has to remain a wetland. So to buy that parcel, you can't sell off a portion, and you can't do anything with the wetlands portion of it, but there's enough in the parking lot area to site the facility, as Joshua indicated.
Okay, but there would be nothing prohibiting the city from selling that to Pacifica Land Trusts or Coastal Conservancy or whatever for some, for them to maintain the land.
I think that could probably be done as long as, the purpose is preserved. I think that's the main underlying reason that there's a caveat on the title.
Because I know the owners of the next to the community center in that old house with the red door, they were talking about donating some of their wetlands to like the land trust or whatever. So it seems like it would be a natural thing to try to mediate. But one of the big things is, so you're saying it was 16 million for the one there at the community center. What has been in the 20-year financial plan? Do you know offhand? I know I didn't call you beforehand and ask this question. So, but what was budgeted in the 20-year financial plan to build this?
$20 million.
Yeah.
20 mil? Okay, so we're pretty well. We got the cost plus another 10% for whatever happens. Okay,
Yes.
so but there would be no issuance of debt with either side, and there wouldn't have to be anything but the normal rate increases on the sewer rates, correct?
No, we do include in the financial plan paying for the basin through a new issuance of bond, so new debt.
A new what?
A new bond issuance. So we do plan in the financial plan, we do have this payment by debt.
But that's already in there
It's
in
in
the
the
financial
plan.
plan, and it's not we forgot to do this. Okay.
No.
So that's pretty much my questions right now.
Okay, thank you for those questions. Councilmember Keener?
So how big is the equalization basin in terms of gallons?
It's about 2.1 million gallons.
Okay, and how much per day is excess in, a large rain event?
Well, let me just, I guess I can discuss the most recent significant wet weather event, which was December 11th, 2014. We had about 19 million gallons that came into the Clare Creek water recycling plant. So we're talking about equalizing, 2 million of 19 million on that day. What it does is very significant in the lower Linamar area, which, as I mentioned, we had about 300,000 gallons that overflowed. That would go into the basin and probably would have prevented the flooding of sanitary sewage in the lower Linamar area.
Okay. So another thing that I'm kind of curious about is how did you eliminate Site D? Site D is considerably cheaper than even Site A. And I grant you that it's closer to the ocean, but it is a little higher in elevation actually than the Lindemar Park and Ride.
The big reason really is sea level rise. That's the big reason. And also the Coastal Commission permit process, which is very uncertain. And maybe Steve can talk a little bit about that and his experience with that.
Yes. As exemplifies their responsiveness to your concerns about your project, we couldn't even get them to return a phone call about this project. So that's indicative of what will happen if we went forward there, is that you could eventually engage them, but it is going to be exceedingly time-consuming. And as Joshua said, there's a 2017 deadline looming. Now, they will have no concern whatsoever about your deadline. So they will move at their pace when they make room for consideration of your project.
What about sea level rise?
And as Joshua said, sea level rise was a big thing. And as we went through the various drafts of the report, it dawned on us that over and above other things that we'd said, is that this would be a sizable investment on the coastal side of Highway 1, where you are going to have to defend what's out there. And we just didn't think that it was wise to put another, call it $10 to $15 million investment on that side of the highway.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have a question? I just want to thank you. I know you answered a lot of my questions today, but I had a couple questions. In terms of Site A, and you say it was 12.8 million, that is if we sell the land, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we didn't sell the land, it would be probably a little closer to Site C1. But so we have to sell the 78,000 acres or whatever that are.
So the credit for selling 71,080 square feet at $30 per square foot, the credit is about $2.1 million. So you would have to add that $2.1 million back to the project cost.
Okay.
14, 15, then it would become about 15 million.
Okay, still about $1 million less expensive.
Yes.
And one thing that concerns me, of course, with Site A is the construction that would take place, and that would be very difficult. It's a year-long process, and it would take, and as you said, it would be close to some homes there, so that's one of the more difficult problems to address.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe Steve can talk a little bit about the construction and what that would kind of mean for private residences there?
Yeah. Yes, there would be a disturbance. I can't say there'd be none.
Right.
Although some people would be quite taken back by such a large below-ground structure so close to homes,
Right.
the construction technique that would be used is the same as being used in downtown San Francisco, down by the Transbay Terminal rejuvenation area, where they are digging new basements to new high-rises alongside existing high-rises, and they're going down 50, 55 feet. We would be using below grade down into wet mud, bay mud, just like we would be encountering here. So you can do this. There will be, call it truck disturbance, pouring of concrete disturbance, but there'll be no ground shaking, pounding. There's no jackhammers, or when I say pile drivers involved. If you were to visit some of these San Francisco sites, as they are doing the excavation, or what's called the soil cutter method, going down to the depth, 10 feet away on the sidewalk, you're unaware of any activity. They build these subterranean garages under the high-rises within 6 inches of the property line, and on 6 inches on the other side of the property line is a 40-story building undisturbed.
Okay, interesting.
But I don't want anyone to get the impression that there's no truck noise. There would be truck noise going in and out.
Humans and,
But
yeah.
Concrete mixers, that kind of stuff.
Right, okay, thank you very much. Was there anything else that I had right off the bat? Mike, did you have another question?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go, and I might have a couple more, but.
Okay, Joshua, when, a while back, you and I had a conversation, and you said that the normal flow for the sewer plant is about 4.5 million gallons a day. You're shaking your head no?
Yeah, the design of Clare Creek was about 4 million gallons a day, but our dry weather flow has gone all the way down to, I think 2013, we averaged 2.3 million gallons per day. And I'm not sure, do we have a count yet on 2014, what our average dry weather flow was?
Yes, it's 2.3 still.
Yeah, so about 2.3 million gallons per day right now.
Okay, but the average, we built it for was 4 million, and then the full capacity, if I remember correctly, you said was about 16 million, correct?
What Clare Creek Water Cycling Plant can treat to meet our National Pollutant Elimination Discharge System permit is around 16 million gallons. Again, when you get that high at Clare Creek, there's a lot of work that the plant manager, your director here, Dave Grom, has to do to treat all that wastewater flow. So I can't say it's 16 million, but it's right around there.
You could do that if you hustle for a short period of time.
If you make a lot of adjustments.
A racehorse goes at a pace, and then at the end they exert, and that's basically what it is. You just have you have to do some tweaking, but you can get it to 16. But you had told me that like in December we had 19 million gallons of water. So just doing the math, 19 minus 16 is 3 mil. And if, I think you also said this was going to have a capacity of about 2 mil, right?
0.1, yes.
Why, if we've had, historically, if we had a record of 3 million, what determined going for 2 instead of 3 mil?
Well, the flows that came in on the December, and so I'm sort of cursed in that this wet weather event just happened recently, was the highest amount of flow we have ever seen at the Clare Creek Water Recycling Plant, the 19 million gallons. We've never seen it that high before then. So this was designed, looking at wet weather events that had never come in like we had on December 11th, as far as the wastewater flows. And I don't know if Steve, you want to talk a little bit about the design of the volume?
Sure. Let me help comment on the quick arithmetic that you're doing that leaves you with a puzzle, I think. Doing the EQ basin that Joshua was mentioning isn't the only thing that you'd have to do. You'd have to do some level of rehabilitation or capacity upgrades in your piping system. But in conjunction with the EQ basin, you don't have to do every single pipe.
EQ is equalization, right?
Pardon me?
EQ is equalization.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to be sure the public knows what we're talking about.
EQ is equalization, where we sort of smooth the flow rate and lessen the peak. So using equalization basin to smooth the flow in conjunction with some degree of sewer system rehabilitation is the overall lowest cost combination to get control of your overflows, as well as get control of them by 2017. And as Joshua mentioned in his presentation, you could just say, I don't want this equalization tank at all, just fix all the pipes. Well, you could do that. One, it would cost you more to fix all your pipes rather than a optimized combination, and it would take you 20 years to do that. And you have a 2017 date looming out there.
Okay. No, it makes sense that you would have to improve the infrastructure to get the water in and out of the equalization basin, so.
Correct, and you also have to rehab some degree of your pipe system, your sewer system, to diminish to some degree the amount of rainwater that's getting in. You just don't have to find every single drop now, because you're going to store some of them. So it's very rare that a single solution is the optimal way to go, and sure enough, the optimal way here is a combination. Some degree of rehab of your sewers with equalization of the flow.
So are we actually increasing our sewer lines that we're replacing, through the various phases? So that would increase our capacity and storage?
Yes, so we've done a number of projects since the master plan was developed and implemented in 2011. The Lower Lindemar project that just took place at Anza and Arguello and a lot of those sites. There was a lot of upgrades, so we had upsizing pipes of 12-inch to 18-inch inside diameter of the pipes. The current project that's taking place, the sanitary sewer replacements on the south side of Lindemar Boulevard, if you will, same thing there. We're upsizing a lot of the pipes there. After that project, we'll probably be moving to Pedro Point, doing a lot of upsizing there. So yes, there will be, in conjunction with the equalization basin, upsizing of the capacity of the sanitary sewer system and replacing sizable portions of it altogether should give us capacity assurance when we need it by 2017 and beyond.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Keener.
I'm just curious, have you noticed any decrease in flow during rainy periods, and not during the really difficult one in December, but say lesser events, from repairing the sewer laterals and main lines so far?
Yes, sir, without a doubt. When we have inspected the replacements that have taken place, either through a CCTV camera, closed circuit television camera inside the pipe, or looking at a downstream point from those replacements, significantly less flow than what we have historically seen.
So you'll continue to decrease the flow from that end of things, replacing laterals and the sewer mains, and at the same time, you'll have this equalization basin to hopefully take care of any really major event.
Yes, sir, that's the plan.
So just a couple more questions. Do a lot of other cities have these equalization basins?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do, both large and small cities. Delta Diablo, which is Pittsburgh, Antioch, has an extensive set of equalization basins. San Francisco, maybe can't quite compare there because it's what's called a combined system where storm system and sewer system are together. But they have a very large set of equalization basins under the Embarcadero. When you drive down the Embarcadero, you're on the roof of their equalization basin. Okay. So yes, it's a very typical thing. I was overseas in a large city, and their equalization basin took the form of a storage tunnel under the city. It was a very big city, but yes, this concept is very normally used. And as I was alluding to before, the willingness to do equalization gets you to a lower cost of overflow containment, because you can now do a combination of some degree of rehabilitation or sewer upgrading and do the rest in the equalization basin and post rapid progress. For example, the large city I was talking about, they went to the storage tunnel because they had to have it in time for the 2000 Olympics, to protect the harbor, which was a venue and so forth. So again, just as you are, they had a deadline, maybe for a different reason, but it allows you to post progress.
Okay, great. And when you say it will be used maybe 4 or 5 times a year, so how many times a year do you think you would have to do maintenance?
Of the force main, where we would need storage capacity?
Yeah.
no more than really once or twice a year. I mean, currently, we don't really we're unable to really do any maintenance of the wastewater force main right now. We just did a very large assessment of the force main, and it came back in good condition, so that's a positive. But we will need to maintain the force main, we will need to do maintenance to it. So it will grow in importance, our ability to store wastewater.
Okay, and then one last question. I know you guys might have more, and these guys really want to say some things, but in terms of turning on, off, automatic, manual, how does that work? What if there's an emergency, nobody's around to turn it off, or, just...
Yes, the design of this system will be by gravity, and it will be automatic, if you will, or a passive system.
Okay.
So as the wastewater flows increase, it will reach a certain level and passively flow into the equalization basin. There will be no valves that need to be turned on or off in the system.
Okay. And what about emptying it out? Like...
There will need to be a pumping system to pump it back into the wastewater system. So that will have to be done manually.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Ms. O'Neill.
Okay, now that we've kind of talked all about the technical aspects, why we should have it, the mains and everything else, kind of the reason I think a lot of the people are probably here is they live on Arguello and they want to know what they're looking at. Okay, once this is built, what is going to look like? So would it be possible, because this is an information item, we're not going to vote on anything or whatever, and I imagine you're going to have like another presentation with more numbers and all that. Would it be possible to bring some photos or pictures of equalization basins in the area so that everybody can get an idea of what this odor bed looks like, what the equalization basin looks like? Because I know you had mentioned to me once, Joshua, it's just Half Moon Bay has one and it's just a pasture. So I think that would help educate a lot of people to what they would be looking at for the useful life for this is probably 50 years, right? I mean,
Probably more.
more? Okay.
I mean, because it's basically a concrete vessel, so it would have a long life.
Okay, well, what are people going to be looking at for the next 50, 60 years or whatever? So I think that would help, get us further over the hump of what it is. So if you could do that for the next, I would appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're ready for questions or comments from the public. So for those of you who are still here, Chris Fogel. The next speaker will be Dan Stejink. Yeah, sorry.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address this agenda item and comment on it. So I was looking at the CMS report, and they are asked to judge the sites on five criteria, which are labeled on page 1-3. The 5 criteria are disturbance to neighbors, construction impacts, or technical and cost analysis. CMS was not asked, nor would I expect them to be asked, to analyze the applicability of a site based on what the city of Pacifica wants to do with that site in the future, how the placement of a wastewater tank may affect the city's notion of what is best or the highest use for that site. So that is not part of this plan. Also, what is not discussed here are the opportunity costs. What is lost when a wastewater basin is put on a particular location? What can no longer go on the location? What is the city losing out by having that wastewater basin at that particular location? So that is not contained in this report. I think it is a very important component to discuss amongst yourselves, and that's of course where the council comes in and the city comes in. Along those lines, I'd like to talk specifically about location A. I'm a little bit confused about what I'm hearing tonight as opposed to what I'm reading in the plan. The plan addresses flooding at each particular site. All 6 sites that were considered are all in a flood zone. So for each site, they address flooding. And each site has a little flooding section that says, to reduce the risk of flooding the basin with stormwater, it would be necessary to raise the basin rim, creating a berm around it, completely buried basin, or to include some flood protection measure. Now, on December 11th, around that Section A area, we had flooding around 2 to 3 feet deep there. So are we talking about a berm or a wall that has to be 3 feet deep around this entire 85-foot tank to prevent water from coming in? I guess what I'm getting at is that we're going to have, if this could be cleared up tonight, that would be awesome. I don't know exactly what this tank's going to look like and how much of it is going to stick above the ground, but it sounds to me like we're going to have an awful lot of infrastructure in place, and which would preclude building anything in the future. And I would hate to sit there and look and say, gee, we can't build a low-income mixed-use housing here because we made this decision to put this here. So just something to consider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for those comments, Chris. Okay. Dan, you can.
Thank you. My name is Dan Stedjink. I'd like to thank Mayor Irvin and the entire council for bearing with us here tonight. I have a new appreciation for your job and the public that hung out here too. I'd just like to say that I found out, I'd like to thank Josh because I found out about this Friday night at 6 p.m. when I got home and got the letter. I immediately sent this to some friends of mine that are civil, I'm a software engineer, not a civil engineer. I immediately sent this to some friends of mine that are civil engineers, and they both unanimously, independently agreed with Councilman Keener and picked D, all things being equal. I find it slightly unbelievable they paid $646,000 to a consulting organization that could not get a call back from the Coastal Commission. When I looked at a house at 670 Esplanade that was falling into the water, they called me back within 72 hours, and granted that was 2005. But I'm working off this evaluation summary that is in the vast majority of documents that were posted online about this, and I believe I've read everything RMC has created on this. To me, you know, half these originally didn't have any land costs in there, and when a utility tells me, oh, this is going to pay for itself by selling the property back, I find that I'm always skeptical a little bit because we have had some projects here that were sold on that basis that did not turn out that way. 71,800 square feet is 2 football fields. And if we're saying we're going to sell that amount back of the Samtrans lot and maintain the Samtrans as a viable transportation station, I would say that might not be accurate. A couple reasons the Lindemar pump station, AKA the Taco Bell beach parking lot, was not considered was that permitting design with a raised ground elevation or partially exposed basin would be relatively difficult. Both the engineers I talked to said that it is possible. There are things doing. This isn't a 14-month project. This is a water tank, an underground water tank that we're doing. It's concrete, underground water tank. For 20 years, we've been creating Air Force hangars that are fully submersible down to 100 feet. There are methods to get this flat. I don't know if we've even looked at the Kimco-owned property across the street that's a mall. I'm not saying we rent the spot next to Ross and put a water tank in there, but it might be a fraction of the price. And I'd like to just say that, buying a wetlands is kind of like buying a bad used Ferrari. You always have something to do on Saturday, and you always have something to spend every last dime on. Wetlands are something people are constantly trying to give away if possible. Again, I'm in favor of taking another look in this last 2 years, which we haven't, at Site D, the Taco Bell parking lot, because I think that is the winner. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Virgil Morse. And next will be Chris Redfield. And then Michelle Hansberry. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Virgil Morris. I live on Arguello. And I guess my main concern is odors, how high it's going to be on either of the A sites. thinking about December 11th and the talk of the chips for the odor control, if anybody remembers, on Lindemar Boulevard, all the chips from the mediums were everywhere. So what's going to happen with the odor control chips and things like that? That's pretty much it. I just hope you take all the people that live down there into consideration.
Thank you very much for those comments. Chris Redfield.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having us here. Several questions. One, the Lindemar pump station was turned down basically as a site. I believe that's a Coastal Commission deal because it's on the west side of the highway. You stated seawater rise as an issue with that. The pump station is there. Has that been addressed in the future? That obviously is a concern. That's one thing. The park and ride lot, in my opinion, is probably the best bet. The numbers still don't jive with me with the main capacity of flow as the December 11th flood indicated. We were heavily inundated, so something definitely needs to be done. I know you're addressing that through mains, larger mains, for the capacity in the neighborhood before it gets to that point. Also, the odor device that you had mentioned, is that hydrogen sulfide filter? Is that a certain medium that is used for that? I'm just curious about that. And also, as Mr. Morse just stated, that was a heavily flooded area. And yes, that is a rare occurrence, but it will happen. What happens when that tank is full? It's going somewhere. Where does that flow? If that tank overflows, where is that sewage going to go to? We know where it goes to right now when it overflows. Also pump upgrades. You are obviously increasing capacity. Is there any upgrade CIP plan for the pump station itself, wet well capacity at that location? I think those things need to be addressed. The capacity, again, you said was 2.1 million gallons, I believe, for it. Is there any feasibility in going larger than that? You've obviously done the engineering and the plans for that. Too much is never enough in that case, in my opinion. So that's also, you said bonds will be used for that. So that is the funding process. Bonds will be sold for that. And again, that was going to be addressed in the rate increases that have already been presented in the main plan, I believe. Does any of this need to go to the Coastal Commission on the two sites that you recommended because it's on the east side of the highway? Do they need to go to the Coastal Commission, or does that?
We'll try to get those addressed when you.
Okay. Yeah. My understanding is that anything on the west side of the highway is Coastal Commission interest. Maintenance issues involved. Has that been factored into the process as far as costs of maintenance in the future going forward? That needs to be obviously put in a budget. That's going to be always an issue. Also, have soil cores been done at those sites? They have. Okay, thank you. Also, I'm concerned, just the last thing, for all the heavy construction that's going to be coming in, our roads are already pretty much trash. So I just want to make sure that those are addressed after all that heavy equipment leaves.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Michelle Hansberry? Hello.
I'm not sure which council members are aware of the flood problem that we brought to Mayor Irvin and Lori's attention a couple months ago. We still haven't gotten all the answers we were looking for, the questions that we had during that time. But I think this issue and this project ties directly into the problem that we get to see every time it rains heavy. So Plan A is obviously being sold very hard to you guys because you can sell some of this land back and there's all these great benefits. But I think a lot of us are looking at Plan D and wondering, why is it not on the list anymore? We have essentially, with the help of the wastewater folks, established that the wastewater pump station in general is not being mismanaged. The infrastructure carrying the water from our neighborhood over on Arguello and Anza across the street, across Highway 1 to the pump station is insufficient. And this stormwater infiltrated this wastewater system so heavily that we saw this huge increase in wastewater that needed to be treated on December 11th. So now we're going to address the wastewater system and create a big basin, a tank to hold the overflow, when that's not the whole problem. And that's not the stormwater issue is going to continue to cause us problems. So are we ready to pour our tax dollars into this temporary solution that's not really addressing the whole picture? And I think this would be a great time for you guys to think about this flood problem at the same time and find a way to bring both problems a solution and not just put a Band-Aid on it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for those comments. Let's see, I think that's the last card I have. Anybody else in the audience want to speak on this issue? Otherwise, I'm going to bring it back to council. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to council then. Oh, did you fill out a yellow card? Okay, just make sure that
After.
you get, yeah, just go.
After he speaks.
Yeah, go ahead. You can do it after. That's all right. Thank you. Go, come on up.
Hi, my name is Noah Bowling. I'm a resident in Pacifica. Thank you very much for your time. I'm just a very concerned citizen, resident of Arguello, and I'm petrified of the thought of dealing with 14 months of heavy construction directly in my backyard and then dealing with the smell of it afterwards.
Much for those comments. Okay. So I'm going to bring it back to council. Anybody want to start off with comments or no? One thing that I thought might be useful is a lot of issues were brought to the attention. If there's any just that come to the surface really quickly that you would like to address, I don't know. I don't want to put you in that. But there were a lot of things that maybe, Josh, if you wanted to take a stab at some of the issues that were raised, and then we can go from there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there are a few things we can answer. I know I saw Steve looking excitedly like there was quite a few things he wanted to answer with that. Let me start with the stormwater issues that was brought up. The stormwater system in Pacifica in that lower Linamar area is a completely separate system. This equalization basin would not be designed to mitigate any of the stormwater issues. The engineering department is responsible for the stormwater system, and I know I believe I shouldn't speak for engineer and public works director Van Ocampo, but they are looking at evaluating the lower Linamar area as far as a stormwater system, looking at that very closely. So I know that is taking place right now. But this would not mitigate any stormwater during wet weather events. As far as the flooding on top of the potential basin at Site A, it would be built 2 feet above the existing ground level, roughly 2 feet, to get above the floodplain. It would be constructed so that you wouldn't see that 2 feet very well. That's the idea. Steve can probably talk about that in a little more detail, but yes, it would have to be higher at Site A.
Yeah, to take care of the flooding concern, we would raise, when I say raise, we would build the basin so that, call it, the concrete would bump up above, ground surface by about 2 feet. We wouldn't need a berm on top of that, taking up more footprint. We would just sort of bump the structure up, and then it would be landscaped. At a 2-foot, 28-inch profile, we could visually obscure that. I guess if you had to see it, you could see it, but in terms of passerby or aesthetic impact, driving around the neighborhood, it would not be evident. But I think one of the points I think was trying to be made that we would need a flood control berm, and that would take up more space, and then the footprint gets bigger. No, we wouldn't need that here.
Okay.
So that takes care of that.
Is there anything on the odor control chips with the flooding?
Now, on the odor control chips, I think that is a good point, is that I had indicated that maybe we would only need, a 6-inch curb. We might need a taller curb to contain the so-called wood chips. So I think that is a good point.
I think
but
it is as
again,
well.
it won't be a tall structure. It's not like a stack the air comes out up through the bed. So I do think that is a good comment.
And then the maintenance issues were certainly a very important consideration to the wastewater staff. We would be the ones maintaining the basin and the piping, and that certainly goes into our estimation of site C1, which has double the piping. We have not put a cost on that maintenance. I think it would not be a significant cost, if you will, compared to the millions of dollars being spent on the basin, but it certainly would require more maintenance time from wastewater staff. The basin itself will be designed self-cleaning, if you will. I don't know, Steve, maybe you can talk a little bit about that briefly?
Yes. Again, in terms of just maintenance, but also it lends a hand with odor control. I mean, it'll have tall walls on the inside, and so there'll be automatic sluice down features to the tank so that after every emptying, basically the walls and floor get flushed and pumped out. So there isn't going to be a lot of solids residue after every emptying waiting for the seasonal cleanup. Basically, there'll be a cleanup after every emptying. Okay. And then also with regard to the odor concerns, yeah, no one likes to smell sewage. The advantage here in California, though, of the type of flow that it will go in is by the time this tank gets activated, the storm has happened, the flows are dilute, they're generally cold, so it's not like it's 80-degree water that's full strength, which would have a high odor potential. So the sewage, as we would store it, would have a lower odor potential, and then that potential would be odor scrubbed by these odor control beds that would target hydrogen sulfide, among other things.
Okay.
And then the final note I think that I have that I can kind of answer would be Coastal Commission permit issues as far as the other sites other than the one next to the Linamar pump station. Site A wouldn't have any of that as I understand it. There's no coastal.
Well, Coastal Commission exerts its influence in strange ways. Inboard of the coastal highway, of Highway 1, it isn't under their jurisdiction to issue a permit. But if you're within sight of it, you need to get their opinion that they don't have to permit it.
Okay.
We're going through this in Southern California. We're putting in a treatment plant that's just inboard of Highway 1, and we don't need a permit, but they have purview over it because you can see it.
And on that note, I just want to ask really quickly, what is your experience? You know, you've mentioned that you do have experience with the Coastal Commission, and so that's a very big concern with a couple of these sites at the Taco Bell parking lot. So your experience is, are they receptive to doing something like this, or?
Once you engage them, you can probably get approval to even be on the, call it, ocean side of Highway 1. But the mitigation measures you have to undertake may drive the costs up and certainly will take time. Now, I know an example was given that someone was able to get immediate or near immediate response out of Coastal Commission. That's great when you get it, but you can't guarantee that you will, especially when you're under a timeline and you don't have something falling into the ocean. Okay. So if it's about engaging them about something not yet built, it'll be per their schedule, not yours.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. What was it? Oh, and I guess that's more our question, that issue of the value of the land based on having a equalization basin right next door. That's something that probably needs to be taken into account. I know you have some lights here. Let me let everybody talk. I have no idea who was first, so I'll just go with Councilmember O'Neill.
I seem, when we were talking before, you said that it was going to be unseen and flush, and that you could actually use, Samtrans could still use it as a lot for their buses, right? But now, did I misunderstand you when you said it's going to be about 28 inches high? So is like the whole lot going to be raised 28 inches, or?
No, okay. At the Linamar site, the Linamar Park and Ride site, No, the whole site won't be raised, but call it the tank itself, might be 24 to 28 inches above ground surface. You could still park on it, that is, we would have to give you a 2-foot ramp to get up on top, and you could park on it if that's what you wanted to do, or to make it more obscure, you wouldn't park anything on it. But if you were to site the tank on one end or the other of the Lindemar site, that would leave about 60 some odd percent of the site untouched, and it could continue as the current park and ride and Samtrans bus turnaround or terminus that they use now. Of course, if you were to sell the site, you'd have to work out, what would be the future use upon sale and so forth. But siting the tank would allow the current functions on the Lindemar site, park and ride, to continue, with the exception of the Caltrans trailers, which is the end of the parcel we're looking at.
So obviously it probably has to be round, right? Just because it's best that way.
Structurally, it's best, it's cheapest that way, and it's intrinsically stronger that way.
Okay, so if you have the round equalization basin and you have this, what's like the total square foot of the complex? And could you put that odor bed right on top of the equalization basin?
Yes, we could. We were thinking of doing exactly that, and that might be one of the final optimizations we do. What hasn't been decided is what do we want to put on the roof, but we did think of putting it on top. The one negative of putting it on top is it adds to the height profile, and so, you'd be up at you'd probably add another 4 to 5 feet to the top.
But you would have more feet available for, like was suggested, affordable housing or
correct. But it would give you more footprint for other use. Yes, it would.
Right. Okay.
But yes, that would solve the flooding of the odor bed issue. The negative would be I've got a taller profile to hide, but it would not be inordinately high. It's not like it's a 40-foot tank we're trying to hide.
Right, like the water districts.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be
yeah.
anything like that, or a oil tank or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Council, Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
Right, regarding the odor stuff, I do have a concern about that. I don't think that'll ever be cured. I know I have a more sensitive nose, but like the pump by the pier, and even tonight, the bathroom, periodically these things happen. I don't know what it is, but just walking by this building sometimes is too much. And then being at the gas station, all of a sudden feel like I have flu, when it's actually the wastewater treatment across the street. So it just seems concerning that wherever you put anything and you're going to have people walking around, it's going to be tough. So are you telling me that progress has been made in these things and kind of rapidly in the last couple of years?
Well, just a few things I would comment on that. We don't have brand new odor control at any of our pump stations. We don't have it here. We don't have it at Lindemar. We do have an odor control, a fairly advanced odor control system at Clare Creek Water Recycling Plant, which works well now. It did take a bit to get to that point, but it does work well. But so when you get those odors to the other stations, there is no significant odor control there. There will be for this site. And then the other comment to make is, again, raw wastewater will go into this very infrequently, 5 to 10 times out of the year at the most, really. The rest of the year, it will be completely empty.
And then the other question was a little fuzzy on the sea level. I mean, how do we determine that? And is technology at a point where we're really capable of dealing with that? Because we're going to have it. I just don't know.
Yeah, it was a significant part of the discussion with the site next to the Lindemar pump station. We looked at, historically, we've already had retreat there. we have the existing pump station there, so we do have to deal with that. But to add another structure there, to add on to the problem, that was a significant consideration in not having that as high of a site.
I guess my question is, the Netherlands is always pointed out as that they're very advanced because they've had to deal with water encroaching everything. Do we in the United States learn from them? I mean, is that like state of the art coming from the Netherlands or anything? Or?
Go ahead.
Yes, in fact, when Hurricane Katrina happened, the Netherlands were often quoted as, why didn't New Orleans take on board those kinds of improvements? But as it pertains to here, yes, we could put this tank out there at the Lindemar pump station on the ocean side of Highway 1. And we could engineer that. The engineering is quite doable. The thing is, it's going to stick out out of the ground, and the Coastal Commission will come along and have strict requirements as
Well, I
what are we
wasn't
gonna
actually
do with that?
referring to putting it there. I'm just thinking of sea level rise is going to be pretty common no matter where we are. I was just wondering if we're learning from another country.
Yeah. Yes, and one of the things we're learning is that, and we see this with other clients who have coastal assets, is they're beginning to limit the further investment in the place, in the, call it the flood elevations that we know are going to be inundated in the next 50 to 100 years. San Francisco is already undertaking that, or we did some work up in Marin County, and they're having to flood-proof their plant because of sea level rise. The 100-year flood level in 50 years is going to be into the plant. So we're doing that over in Union Sand District on the rim of the bay. So yes, it's happening.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Keener, and then.
Okay. One of the speakers from the public asked about what happens when you've got too much flow, even for the equalization basin to handle. Where does the overflow from that go, and what happens to it?
So the low point of this system is Anza and Arguello, the intersection of Anza and Arguello, and then Lindemar Boulevard, right where the entrance to the shopping center is, the main entrance to the shopping center. Those are the two low points where whenever that system floods, that's where it ultimately comes out. When Lindemar Pump Station is over capacity, that's where it comes out.
Yeah. Okay.
And has there ever been a situation where there's been an overflow in an equalization basin? Any type of incident that's happened I'm just curious if we're so worried about.
I'm sure there's cases where, cities who have the equalization basins, they're full and it continues to rain. Then what they have is, they might have a flooding incident, but now you're up at the 20-year event or the 10-year event rather than every year it happens or every other year it happens. Right. So it's a case, and it was mentioned, well, why don't you build more? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could build more, but more costs more, and then you have all the other questions of construction impact and so forth.
Right.
So it's a balancing act, and how much protection do you want to give to the neighborhood versus how much is mandated by the regional board? Do you want to go higher than that? You certainly can.
Right. Yeah, so I think we've all asked many questions and we've gotten a lot of information, and this is a continuing conversation that we need to have. And I know you guys brought up a lot of interesting questions as well, and hopefully we can, if we haven't addressed most of them tonight, we can address them. And of course, we have two things to decide: whether or not we need this equalization basin, which, I have a lot of clarity on, but I don't know if everybody does. And then, if so, where do we put it? And then what's the cost-benefit analysis, really getting a really defined feeling, and how do we evaluate all sorts of different things, like, being next to somebody's house and odor and you know, all the Coastal Commission and all these different issues that we each have to come to terms with, you know, what is really our strongest priority going forward. And, you know, so can you kind of just comment in ending, what are the next steps? And then we'll go from there.
Well, we've received a lot of input tonight that will go into the staff report and into a final draft of the site feasibility evaluation for a council meeting a couple months from now or so, maybe end of May, beginning of June, something like that is sort of what we're thinking. So we'll have the comments that have been made tonight. Some of that will get incorporated, the input, and then, you know, give you time as a council to take all into consideration.
And I'm sure you're open to more comments from the public if they would.
Yes, my email address is on the staff report.
Great.
And yes, send me comments, please, and whatever is sent to me, you know, will be distributed to the team who's looking at this, evaluating this, analyzing this.
Great, and thank you very, very much for, did anyone else? I thought I heard somebody add on. Thank you very much for this report, and thank you as well to the audience who has sat here for a very long time in order to give your 3 minutes of comments. It's very, very important to us, and we are listening, and it's a difficult you know, problem that we're having. There's no perfect solution, but hopefully by working together and listening with each other, we can come to a consensus about one of the options moving forward. So please continue to stay involved, and we'll do our best to make sure that you are informed next time we have a meeting. And again, maybe we can make sure we have everybody's emails that we can inform you when we're having our next discussion regarding this issue. Anybody else have any other comments they'd like to end?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then with that, I'm adjourning the meeting. Thank you very much.
What's next?
That's it. Oh, don't say that.
Did you adjourn us?
I did. I said with that, I'm adjourning.
I'm ready to go.
What's next? Don't say that.
No, my pleasure.